Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the X-Men Retrospective, the X-Men animated series Retrospective. Matter of fact, I am the honey-tongued Travis Snell, and I'm joined by...
I'm the Lizard Man, Kirkland Patzer.
I am the delicious senses, Dylan Muss.
I'm the Phoenix, the Field of Fields.
It doesn't feel good when they're so weak. I can't wait to get into some of that. But yes, we're here to very anticipated. I feel like if you're an X-Men animated series fan or just an X-Men fan in general, this is probably the most anticipated episode because, Dark Phoenix. So we're going to be talking about Dark Phoenix Saga, and then there's two other bonus episodes that I don't know why they're placed there, but, we're going to talk about, this is the last of season 3, so we got the last 6 episodes here, and then, we got a few more episodes. We really still have like 31, but still, as far as how we record them in batches, I think we only got about probably 4 to 5-ish maybe recordings and stuff like that. I don't know. So we're getting near the nitty gritty and stuff like that. So if this is your first time, go back and listen. Obviously, head over to Patreon. If you're wondering right now, like, oh, I'd like the entire season, because that's when this is going to release. When this starts releasing, the show will be recorded. You can get every single episode right now, ad-free, early on your own RSS feed. It's pretty impressive. So head over there, become a Patreon producer like Aaron Braden, April Darkness, Joshua Wright, Jack Grant, and Muds, and you get to vote on polls. You get sneak peeks behind things and stuff like that. Especially in the fall, we're doing a lot of one-offs. Like we said, this is the time where we do like a Halloween thing and a Christmas thing, and they'll probably do like another movie night and Christmas. So lots of votes and stuff you guys get to decide right now. So we appreciate all the support. Head over there if you want more content. If you like these retros, if you like side quests, if you like when we get to do 2 newscasts a week, you guys are the ones that support us and make that happen. Taylor, when we make it happen, where can they find it?
Find us through the internet connection in the search bar. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast for Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. Shout out to our Indiana Jones background because we just did that Indiana Jones review.
Yeah, he's big appearance in this episode. Couldn't believe it. He came down to take down Dark Phoenix.
That's how I feel seeing that background.
That's like why'd they let that character poster out? I love Antonio, but it just makes him look like a fool. But yeah, this is probably coming out like in December. But go check out our Dial Destiny review and all the Indiana Jones, and that's what we do. Retrospective, that is our brand of, we do some for games, we do some for movies, we look back on things, and that's what we're looking back on. But for many of these folks, especially this time, this is the first time. But the funny thing is that, hey, Kirk and I did the retro. I know Dylan's seen the movies. I'm not sure if Taylor's seen all of the movies, but we've been through Dark Phoenix sagas before. We got that with the original cast with Emka Jesna. We had a movie with Sophie Turner and stuff like that. So it's not that you guys are not known to this, but this is definitely a different version. I'll say probably the most... the closest you've ever gone to the comic being actually adapted, and you can see how much in the movies, how much is ripped off between the space stuff and the Hellfire Club stuff. So we're gonna get all that because we got a nice 4-part juicy episodes here. So let me, of course, always bring out the Wikipedia descriptions. Are they gonna give me a sentence? Are they gonna give me the entire episode? We never know, but that's the fun thing about Wikipedia and the breakdowns. Okay, so let's see. Oh no, I almost read the Phoenix Saga. Here we go. So episode 14, The Dark Phoenix, part 1, Dazzled. The Phoenix continues to inhabit Jean's body. Jean is beginning to lose control. The Phoenix begins to brazenly take over at will. When the Inner Circle Club that's what they're called?
I thought they were just the Inner Circle. I don't remember them dropping the
They're
club
the Hellfire
tag,
Club.
They don't say Hellfire Club, though.
I definitely missed that they named
the inner
them.
circle in this universe.
I definitely missed that. Okay, so comics Hellfire Club, and they do that in X-Men First Class. We can talk about all those comparisons, but when the Inner Circle Club we should call ourselves that. Let's rebrand GeekVerse. When they learn of Phoenix's powers, they use Jason Ringard to create a new history in the mind of a confused Jean/Phoenix while protecting Dazzler, a mutant club singer, from being abducted by the Inner Circle. Cyclops and the X-Men get caught in this dangerous affair. So Taylor, I wanted to start with you because, like I said, I feel like your history with X-Men is a little splotchy. Had you seen X-Men 3 and had you seen Dark Phoenix?
I've seen all the films. X-Men 3 is definitely a little loosey-goosey with what I remember. So I've never heard of these guys though before. Like the way they're dressed, like this is like high society and all that.
Okay,
kind of
well,
jazz.
With like the tiger print, like
Yeah.
vest, man. We should get those for our inner circle club.
I'm just
That'd be
curious.
that way?
We should do that for like a. I've always one day we have more time to do like
A gala,
specific thumbnails.
GeekVerse gala.
No, not that. We don't have that.
My mind was going bigger than what you
I
were
would
saying.
love to. Every year, someone brings up like, "Oh, we gotta do Mean Green." I said one time we gotta do in Vegas. That's the cheap place to go. Yeah, we'll do a gala. Everyone has to dress up like that. But no, if we did custom thumbnails one day, like if we like, I want us to have that. Or like, we should do like a. Oh man, this is a great idea for our 10-year. We should do a calendar. We should do a calendar, and that's where we could do photo shoots, get us a bunch of this stuff. So look out,
can build
10-year
it. I can build it for
patrons.
us.
Yeah,
I feel like we've talked about this, but it went
The
very like
calendar.
OnlyFans route of just like nude
Yeah, but-
calendars to try
but
and
for
make
the
money for the podcast.
oh,
Those are the
for
early
the-
days.
Yeah, for the 10-year, I got tons of stuff working on. I'm working on a GeekVerse documentary. Got tons of stuff. Don't worry, 10 years is going to be fire. But so Teo, just to set this up, X-Men First Class, the Hellfire Club. Now, do you remember Kevin Bacon's there, and you got Azazel, who's actually like
Yes, I remember this.
Nightcrawler's. Yeah,
I
so that's,
do. Yeah, Frost
yeah.
was there too. Okay.
Yeah, so in the comics, they usually do look more like this, like hoity-toity, like thespian. It's changed over the years, but that is the Hellfire Club in the movies. But they never interacted with the Phoenix. They just used them as a first, like an
And
X-Men villain.
Kevin
so.
Bacon is Shaw, right?
Yeah,
That's his
Sebastian
character.
Shaw. Yeah.
Okay, because I like obviously they explain it more later on, but I thought, okay, what are these dystopian guys out of time like Frozen? And there's like a thing that happens later on with Scott that's just is like, what the fuck is going on in this dream sequence with his like clothing? But
With
we'll
his
talk about
musketeer outfit.
yeah, what the fuck?
British are coming. The British are coming.
But I'll
There's a lot
address
of
that
wild
later.
shit in these 6 episodes. You know,
Oh,
This
yeah.
is definitely they're having some good drugs.
Well, now that like they obviously are in the movie, the Hellfire Club, and all that, I was originally thinking like, are these characters like this style of them in your Snap game, Dylan? I was curious.
I don't think any of those inner circle guys, with the exception of Emma Frost, she's in there.
Okay.
Okay. They got to
I
do a
just got
Hellfire
curious.
month. They got to do that for sure.
They'll do it eventually. I mean, they have a bunch of weirdos in there. Like, Sauron is one of my favorite cards right now. He's just the fact that he's in there
That's
is pretty
amazing.
crazy.
Have they got Soldier Man yet, or whatever that guy was? We always bring up with the tank. What was his name
Are you
again?
talking about
Was it-
Bonebreaker?
Very-
Forgot about
Could you
Bonebreaker?
forget
I was ready with that. Come on.
I'm with
You say his name 3 times and he'll appear.
Oh my god! No,
he
he's
just
not
tells you
in
the
there,
pain of his
unfortunately.
life. You see my legs? When they bring in Bonebreaker, that's when you know they have no cards left. Like they're really at the bottom of the barrel there. So
But yeah, the club in general though, it was interesting. Like again, I didn't know the attachment there, and it was the same thing being the Hellfire Club. I just inner circle, but I think it's funny how this show can just create these new organizations, and they pop up. Their goons have like laser guns and stuff, and I just love how these organizations are always super more technologically advanced. But this was definitely just kind of fun and quirky to get reintroduced back into X-Men because. Like it has been a little bit of a hiatus from doing like these retros with you guys, so I think this was like a good arc to start on because it was so heavy and addressing Jean Grey and just the Phoenix, all that stuff. But we'll talk more about that later. The group itself, though, the costumes, the attire, everything, like very, very interesting, very, very interesting. Yeah.
Mr. Patzer, what do you think?
Just
You know,
neutral interesting? I'm curious, Taylor. You say it's very, very interesting. Or you don't know yet. You're just interested.
I don't know if I would really dress that way.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, it's been a while since we did these retros, and I was just looking at like the earlier episodes of this season. I'm like, my gosh, like I thought that was like a season ago already. Like just what was going on with the crazy floating ball and entity thing. It's just like, man, this has been a long season, but also we just a little bit delayed on the recording. But
Yeah,
glad to
for
be
the
back.
main feed people, you're getting this just like literally a week after. But yeah, there was like a lot of vacations and babies, and so
Yeah.
that's why there was a big break in between this and the last episode.
One baby,
so-
not
A lot of
multiple
babies.
Yeah. No, I got another one right here.
Gosh. Okay, yeah, so for this one, I very much was looking forward to just this Dark Phoenix stuff. Like it was really cool just getting exposed to the more comic accurate side because I believe that the animated show is basically pulling it right from the comics.
Yeah, they
It's
changed
usually what they
very
do
few,
for the
but this is a close adaptation. So
yeah, so it was cool to see her don like the Phoenix garb with like the long flowing hair. I just had always seen that image, so to see it in like live action, that was really epic. And I was excited for the Dark Phoenix twist because obviously I had seen that in live action and really did not like it. So I was hoping to like it here, and I must say this was a pretty weak start for me. I really did not care for the Hellfire Club at all, or the Inner Circle Club, as they're called in this show. I just the whole hoity-toity like outfits and everything. They just seemed like a bunch of just like high ego dudes, which that's what they are. But like, I just didn't care for what their motivations were. And the one guy like trying to oust the other ones, and he's like trying to just fall in love with like Jean and like just control her, but like use that to like just take over the other people. I just really wasn't vibing with that. I was just like, yeah, no, I don't need this at all. And I was really worried, honestly, for the like to have this as part 1 for the Dark Phoenix saga, because it's like, holy shit, I didn't like it in live action. Does this mean I just not a fan of the Dark Phoenix arc at all? But minor spoiler, I kind of was saved as the parts went along. You know, we'll get there when we get there. But for the first part, yeah, I was not a super big fan of it. Even like the non-Inner Circle stuff, I just thought that this was kind of a lackluster episode across the board. There was some things in there that just really like comedically were making me laugh. I don't think they were trying to like get a joke. It was mostly just like, you know, the Jean the Jean voice acting in certain scenes of her just like like freaking out. You know, we had some moans in there, as well as her like being jealous about like the Scott dynamic with that other chick. I just found it funny, and I just didn't really understand why the Phoenix would be like so jealous and like possessive. Maybe that's just a trait that the Phoenix has always had. Maybe it's just showing my lack of knowledge on it in general. But yeah, for me personally, this was kind of a lackluster start to it, which kind of sucks, because I hadn't seen the show in a long time. It was, you know, getting all pumped, listening to that intro again. I'm like, fuck yeah, X-Men retro time. And then, okay, rough start. But yeah, maybe I'm alone there. Who knows?
I'll go next because I'm very similar to Kirkland. As my first experience was as a comic book reader. You hear all the Dark Phoenix saga, right? It's like, oh, I can't wait to get in this. And I've said there's the odd time, but I'm not a big fan of the Hellfire Club. I think they're just a little too cheesy. I actually like the first Clash version a lot, where they've like updated, and I feel like nowadays they do update them a lot more, but I don't like this society of these people dressing like they're in a different century, and it's just it's always a weird intro and a starting point. I love the Dark Phoenix, and I like it's a minor spoiler, but I think these 4 episodes are my favorite as far as the entire series, because they do it so well. But it is all the back half stuff. Whenever I think of Dark Phoenix, I think of the dynamic of the team and what should we do with Jean and all the stuff we'll get into. The Hellfire Club is always just such a weak start for me. I'm just not a big fan of those characters in that world. I like Emma Frost, but I like her separately when she's on the X-Men or Pose, or when she's like in love with Scott. Like I love, and same thing with Shaw. I like him in other ways, but yeah, so it's not I think the show does a good job of adapting it, and I think it's still a good episode. I just don't like the Hellfire Club that much, and there's other things in these 6 episodes we'll talk about of things I just don't like, and you know, it's just kind of as we talked about with you know, Indiana Jones last night, it's different strokes for different folks, and that's where it is for me, where it's like I've just never been on the most I've been on board with the Hellfire Club was when Kevin Bacon was Sebastian Shaw in First Class, and I think that's the highest point I've ever gotten. So I would be interested. I think when we get in the MCU, they may be like this, but maybe obviously a bit more updated. So I think there's room to play. But in these ones, this is always kind of like okay, I got to get through this to get to the really good stuff. So I'm kind of similar to Kirkland on that point. Where are you, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess my backstory first. I mean, yeah, Dark Phoenix is a movie, and it's, you know, it is what it is. But for me, the third X-Men movie, Last Stand, I fucking love that movie. And as a kid, that was like my go-to X-Men movie. And I think I've talked about this before, but I don't even know if I ever really watched the first 2, like maybe a little bit. But I was like all about that movie, and I'd like fantasize about like all these different levels and ratings for all these characters, which that stuff is kind of aside from the Dark Phoenix stuff, which is also going on there. But that always has had a soft spot in my heart. That movie still stands up for me because I was just like so nostalgic for it as a kid. As for what we get here with the Dark Phoenix, I think I'm kind of mostly on board with what you guys are saying about the Inner Circle. There is some elements about it that I like, and when it kind of really plays into the goofiness and over the top and weirdness of this whole situation, but for the most part, I think it ends up being a bit too bland. And a big part of that for me, especially in this first part, is that Emma Frost. You know, most episodes, if it's like continuing a story, you get like a quick, like previously on X-Men, you get like very quick snippets. But I feel like in this episode, like for whatever reason, that's kind of in the middle of the episode. Emma Frost is essentially recapping everything that went on, and I feel like it takes like 2 minutes of her just like explaining all this stuff that, like, I get it to an extent, but from our perspective going through this show, like, I don't know. I watched this stuff recently. I know what's going on. I don't really need all these intimate details. You could even do it a bit quicker with that recap at the start. And then it takes away from like what that character can do, because then any personality or fun moments that she's going to have is instead just her doing exposition. So I think this was kind of a weak start for me. There's just even some weird character stuff that goes on, like, as the name of the episode, Dazzled. The Dazzler stuff is really weird,
Yeah.
and I've been excited for Dazzler to pop up, and I was not happy with what we got with her here, even if it is kind of funny, and I'm sure we'll have some laughs talking about some of it. And yeah, I don't want to spoil my thoughts on the rest of this saga, but I think this was definitely a low start for me, though there is some moments that I did get a good chuckle out of.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we started this episode. It's Scott's going out. He goes with Gambit. Gambit, of course, is Night Owl and stuff. They meet Dazzler, and him kind of have like this connection. Dazzler's coming on real strong. Like she's
Super strong.
She's ready to go. Maybe she's heard about him and stuff like that. And as Kirkland alluded, yeah, I like all the stuff we get with Phoenix. It's just like, and he's like, oh, I have to do something. Like, what, you leaving me for your new lover? And it's like, Gene, like all this stuff. So I feel like it could have been done a little. Just a little more subtle. Like even just Dazzler and him had like a sort of, and it's weird because like, why now? I feel like it would be better if they would have gave him this love, because the last time we watched these episodes, they found Jean at the end, right? Because remember, that was one of our criticisms. Xavier just comes and like, I found Jean Grey. Like it would have been, I think, better to do the mix out of, hey, he met Dazzler, and maybe there is, even if it's just a friendship there before this, but the fact that Jean is like, from what I've seen with Scott, is I don't even think Scott would want to leave the mansion knowing Jean's down in a room getting experimented on. You know, I
agree.
don't know. I don't know if I could buy him and Gambit going to have a good time, get a couple beers. I just like Scott's just been so laser focused on Jean. So the fact he's there, he's
Nice punch.
yeah, thank you. He's kind of like late, like, or he's damn it, because like
Fucking double pun. Okay.
yeah, you should.
First one's a pass.
He's kind of like flirting a little bit with her, but it's still like in a friendly way.
I take it that he's just super unaware, like
Yeah,
the classic
fair
move of
enough.
like a
Scout.
man not seeing that the girl's like hitting on him kind of thing.
Yeah, so it's just a weird thing to draw up here. Like it just, and they never pick up again in the part 4. It's just not like Dazzler comes in and like helps, or it's like that's a whole thing where maybe Jean goes too far and really hurts her. You know, it's just, I don't know. It's an odd place to leave it. Other than I just like Scott, just kind of, I like seeing Scott in the nightlife. I love when he comes back to the mansion. His like jacket's ripped, and I really enjoy in these 4 parts that him and Wolverine, for the most part, have like an understanding, sort of like they're getting along the most they ever have. So Wolverine's like, oh, look at you, looks like you had a good night. Like they're having this like back and forth, which is like kind of fun to see. So I like parts of Bedazzlers. It's especially for her to be like the title of the episode, very very bold, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that like the second time she's meeting this man, she throws a kiss on his lips immediately upon seeing him is incredibly bold, and it's that very classic thing where, of course, like Phoenix walks in at that exact moment. But I kind of like it for how stupid that was. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if Dazzler comes back, but if this is the only Dazzler inclusion in all the animated show, I'm going to be maybe a bit bummed. Not that she's a huge character necessarily that deserves more, but I would have liked to see.
I think you're going to be bummed. I think she might pop up again, but nothing major.
Well,
But
we got a new season coming out.
yeah,
So
I was
who
going to
knows?
say
Who
there's a
knows?
chance. There's some characters where I'm like, oh, we're doing this character, cool.
Well,
you know? So-
that was something I thought that she would come back, at least in this arc, and
Yeah.
hence the name. Like that, it just seems like it was a pretty prominent factor here. But
Part 4, Phoenix versus Dazzler.
yeah.
Oh my god.
She's like, you won't kill her, but I will. And she starts singing. And just says,
little rogue accent on
I
that.
know. I didn't mean to. I don't know why her and Rogue touched and she, transferred over and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
But no. Yeah.
Yeah, that like what you said earlier, Travis, I completely agree with. It was just so hard for me to palette like Scott for like we're in season 3 now. Well, we're gonna be jumping on season 4, and I've seen like Scott just like I feel like he is ride or die for Jean always, and then like when she's down and out, like just on her like not deathbed, but she's in the sick bed, needs just support, and he's just going out partying. It just seemed like a completely different character, and I feel like there's a different. Maybe a different period where I could really just get behind Scott partying. Like if Jean is gone and they don't know where Phoenix is, like that could be fun. He's on the rebound. Gambit wants to take him out. Like let's go have some drinks. Meet some chicks, have a good time.
Forget about her, Mon
Meet some
ami.
more
Forget
Morlocks.
about it, amigo.
But they like missed that period to do it. You
yeah,
know? Like, this
so
should have been
I don't know where
earlier,
else. Yeah. Exactly. I don't know where else it would be. So it's kind of tough because I want to see it, but when I did see it, it's like, I didn't want this. So
Yeah. The fact that he goes out the first night is actually understandable to me. You know, it still is maybe he's still heartbroken and he shouldn't, even though she's still on the island at that point. But when she's back home and he's going out again, obviously it's like to protect Dazzler, but it's like, you are such an idiot, Scott. This is not the time and place. I love her immediate snapback. I think it was kind of Phoenix talking in that moment, but like, you leave me for another woman? Go there! Like, she just immediately goes like from 0 to 10. It was so good.
Oh yeah! Shout outs to her, the voice actress, for doing the Dark Phoenix voice as well. I think that's all great because like, I love like when she's Jean, you have that nice I'm Jean and I love you, Scott, and then I am the Phoenix and I will. And again, as we've talked about before in the show, like the pain moans they make these actors and actresses do not sound like pain. They just sound like they're in a porno all the time. Like anytime Jean's on the bed, I'm like, I have a daycare upstairs. Like I'm turning the show down because I'm like, this does not sound like a kid's show I'm watching right now. And she's like, oh God, Scott. And it's just like,
I have subtitles on too, and it even says moaning. It's not like painful, painful moan or like outrageous screech, just moaning.
They can't say Hellfire Club, but they can have all this fucking sexual moaning going on. What's the deal there with the rating? The 90s. Weird time.
90s were a weird time.
It was. And it's so weird because we've talked about this before. We're on Spider-Man. They couldn't say the word kill, but they say the word kill here. But I guess hell was too much. So
blood, plasma,
yeah, plasma. But yeah. That's the only thing I got left from this. Because we talked about Hellfire Club. I don't have much more to share there as far as I think, Dylan, you hit it on the nail of the head too. I kind of forget how disappointing. Next episode, she gets something big, but I feel like Emma Frost is just kind of there, you know, because when she walks, I'm like, oh, Emma Frost, like I love this character, and she doesn't do much. Like I said, there is a scene coming up, but she is just kind of a guide. So, you know, like I don't mind. They're like, I don't necessarily mind the idea of, hey, her mind is fragile, and we're going to kind of trick her and use, you know, telekinesis to trick her to make her think she's on our side. I don't mind that as a storyline. It's just the characters kind of surrounding it. And like Kirkland said, I don't know, like I'm always mixed on like, I kind of like that there's inner turmoil, but at the same time, it's like, I don't care too much because I would care more if it led to something, but it kind of just ends eventually, right? It's not leading to something big and everything. So
yeah, it immediately makes you like really hate these villains too, because that's a very creepy thing to do, you know, like it is really fucked up.
It's sexual assault, like the guy's kissing her and everything, like he's definitely taking advantage of her, and that's where it's just like, and that's where X-Men's good because they always use these things for like allegories of like, okay, we can't touch that, but we're gonna do this in like this mind wipe thing. And yeah, they are like, there's no it's like where we talked about Magneto, or maybe that's just it. I was gonna say, I was thinking of all these other sympathetic characters, but you know, you got Sinister, Apocalypse, Juggernaut, so it's really just Magneto. But like these guys, you really have nothing. Yeah, Sauron. bad deal he got decked or whatever. Bad deck he got dealt. But yeah, there's nothing redeemable about these guys at all. You know. So
and I think that was something that got me excited initially in the start of the episode when I met Frost. I'm like, oh my god, okay, I'm going to see her in the animated series. I knew that she at one point joins the X-Men, so I was just waiting for like some crazy character twist with her, because in the live action, like I didn't get much like writing for that character. She was just a lackey, but she looked badass. So like here, it's like, okay, maybe they're like really gonna have a good, interesting like backstory for her, and then like just with this Hellfire Club having like an inner turmoil, maybe this will be something that like just veers her away from that. But yeah, I was just kind of let down. Like she's just there to kind of fill in some information, doesn't do too much more than that.
Well, and in the movies, they've always like that January Jones playing First Class. They've just, the people that have been in control of that character almost feel like they always miss the point because they just see that, and it's the comics books, but they just like, well, that's going to be the really hot actress we get to play, you know, Emma Frost. But it's like, this is a character that like marries Cyclops at one point in the comic books. Like she has like this huge, she's at one point the leader of the X-Men when Charles goes missing for a while. She leads the X-Men, but she's all, it's funny like in this, and there's other animated stuff that maybe we'll get to one day where she has a bigger role, but it's just so funny that in this, in the movies, not so much, but maybe if we get to the MCU, they'll spruce that up a little bit. But yeah.
Hopefully. Yep.
My last note on this episode is when Scott does come back into the mansion, Wolverine is in the fridge, and he says this iconic line, "Where's that blasted salami? I can smell it." And then he's like, "Ah," and he gets really excited. But I just love that, like, even kind of, but even then, like, Gene's back in the mansion, and he's just so laser focused on this like salami of like where is it? But he eats a lot on this 4-parter. Wolverine eats a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, in the next episode, he hacks off that like chicken wing or the turkey wing. Yeah.
Yeah, and he has that wine, and I love that thing when he's like, "This was a lousy year," because it's like the joke is he would get it because he was like alive in that time and stuff like that.
He came out of that
1959.
dumbwaiter like no fucking tomorrow.
The guy had like a I mean that's next episode, but he had like a chopping device too. Like he was like ready to chop something. I was maybe he's gonna cut off the cork with that. No, but he didn't have the turkey yet because I know I'm kind of
it's turkey adjacent though.
Episode here.
It's whatever.
Okay.
We're at the end here.
Fair
the
enough.
turkey's just
Yeah.
like
He just like opened the door, and I was like expecting a meal or something, and he just got a Wolverine boot, and then he brought like the wine.
Yeah, maybe he's gonna carve the turkey, but he wanted like a glass of wine while he did it. Kind of soothe himself and everything. But
There you go.
Couple of quick notes for me on this episode. I really liked the effect that they did when Wolverine gets like blasted through all the floors down into the I guess sewer or whatever it is, and obviously that's kind of like the setup for why he's the only one who got through the situation.
That's this whole arc story here. The guy that buried me or whatever he's saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's really throwing out some like fat expletives. He's really like putting it on him for sure. I love this line. It's obviously what my nickname is alluding to, but like that Phoenix is taking over and they're like, "Give Jean back," and she's like, I forget exactly what the line is, but it's like, "I don't want Jean. I just want her delicious senses." And I feel like they put so much reverb or effect on that line that just stuck with me. And then, I mean, just a quick note. I like to keep track of this. Sometimes we're just missing an X-Men. And Jubilee, not in this episode, and nowhere for the rest of the season. It's such a weird thing when was there in the last episode, was there some explanation of where she is? Because maybe it's been a couple months and I forget. But I feel like sometimes they actually give an explanation, but this time I feel like she just was absent, even though it's like a really important bonding moment even for the X-Men, this storyline. So it was kind of a weird choice.
It's too dangerous.
She's not hanging out with Lone Star or whatever that guy's name was. She was hitting it off with. Maybe she's on vacation
There's
with
Lone
him.
Star, there's Iceman, there's Colossus.
Yeah,
she's always she's
she's
got a
all
lot
over
of
the place this
crushes going
season.
around. Yeah, so she
That
could be
girl.
visiting any one of those
Scene.
boys right now.
She Xavier gave her time off, but not Rogue later on.
She gets to go. He's like, well, she could actually touch people, Rogue, and everyone's like, oh shit. And she's like, I'm out of here.
Charles with his voice just fucking throwing zingers at Rogue. Oh,
He
I
just
love that.
hates Rogue.
Just
He's like,
deadpan the whole way
yeah.
through.
You're Mystique's daughter. She's awful. Yeah, I got nothing else on this episode.
Middle thumb for me.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I'd have to agree at the middle thumb. Oh, a thumb
Joaquin
down.
Is that
Phoenix
Kirkland's
in the
first?
Gladiator movie.
I feel like you've
right
only done a
there.
couple thumbs down.
I think
That's
I'd only
pretty,
done one before, and that
maybe
was with
Mojo?
Mojo
Mojo, for
Vision. I
sure.
think the
Core
first Mojo
Mojo.
Vision. So yeah, no, not a great start for me on this one.
I'm going in the middle.
Middle thumb. There we go. On to episode 2, The Inner Circle. As Professor X and Emma Frost battle for psychic control of Jean, which happens more near the end of the episode,
Great
but that's
sentence.
okay. Yeah. The Inner Circle members quarrel over who will dispose of their prisoners, the X-Men. Meanwhile, the Phoenix begins to grow her thirst for new sensations and turn on both the Inner Circle and the X-Men. Who would have thunk? So...
Who would've thunk?
I like this episode. It's like a good I think it's primarily more there's character stuff, but it's more an action episode. Like it was kind of like what we talked about at the end of the episode. It's more of that where it's okay, they're trying to mind trip her even more to join their side, right? And I think for me the highlight of this is probably what most people say is that battle between Xavier and Emma Frost. I think that's really cool where they go on like this planet that it looks like a Dune version. Like there's like a weird sandworm that gets Emma Frost. So that's cool. But I think like this is just like was just to really tee us up for episode 3 and 4. It's just okay, we're gonna make Jean snap, we're gonna get her to turn up against everybody. And to me, I think this was done well enough. There's lots of chaos going on, so I definitely like this better than the first episode.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think for me, like the Inner Circle, character-wise, they're all kind of boring and blend together. But powers-wise, there's some interesting stuff going on there, and this being more of an action episode does it for me. And there's just a lot of like weird, zany, fun moments. And I think, we got a lot of the exposition set up out of the way in the first episode, so this one just got to be a bit more fun. So I actually did enjoy this one. Definitely a step up, but I don't even know if it's for the Phoenix stuff. I honestly think it's just like in isolation a fun, goofy X-Men episode.
Yeah, like you said, zany. Like there's that one guy at the middle arm. I can't remember his line. He just gets hit at
I
one point.
love
He's just like,
Pierce. Yeah, I freaking
my
love that
arm!
guy.
Like he's just like, there's so much stuff going on. He's just so concerned about his body. It's great.
His arm is always like. Did he test that thing at all in
No.
every single encounter, like at least 3 or 4 times? And he only has, 30 seconds of screen time in 2 episodes. That arm is always getting fucked up, always malfunctioning, always. He has nowhere of the backup plan too. Like it's all on this one arm, and it just gets dispatched so quickly.
What does Rogue
Whenever it
say? Like, I
happens.
bet that cost you an arm and a leg or something like.
Oh
Something
yeah,
like
she's
that,
really
yeah.
going hard on that.
Yeah.
This guy, he must have the worst night after. Like when they're all like getting back together, he's just like, they're making fun of me. This arm doesn't
Yeah.
work and stuff. But they don't care. 'cause
Branch
they got
out.
Yeah.
Leave the inner circle, man. Go to the
You should
outer
go
circle.
to the Dazzler bar. You should go there. You find
He
some
can't even
friends.
join the X-Men though, because I don't think he's like a mutant, right? He just has a metal arm, I guess.
He could be a bodyguard at the Dazzler karaoke bar, whatever that
Yeah,
was.
I don't know. I feel like there'd be one rowdy guest, his arm would malfunction, and they'd be like, "Well, you're
malfunction.
fired."
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do your job, dude.
That's true. Not the greatest balance.
God, that's so sad. What a sad character. Living on the streets.
He
He
should-
can't get any work as a villain.
He should team up with why did I keep forgetting his name? We just talked about the beginning of episode. Tank guy with
Bonebreaker.
the Bonebreaker. He should team up with
Never
him.
forget.
I feel like they would
Right there.
bond.
They're a
you
match
know?
made in heaven for sure. Techno Kid or whatever that kid's name was.
Yeah,
That's
I want
right, Techno
Bonebreaker. He should have a whole faction. Him, Winter Soldier, like get all the people, like maybe even get Omega Red in there, like all the people that are deformed by
Okay.
machines. They
Metal
should just
limbs,
be,
yeah.
the machines, and just go for it.
I'd love
Get,
that.
Falco, isn't he? Does he have metal legs? Or is that
Sure does.
Oh
Fox.
yeah,
There you
he
go.
just has the whole.
Bring in some
squad with
Nintendo
him.
characters. Yeah, that's-
just randomly? Yeah, mix it up. Why not? It's crazy.
Nintendo, they're like, we didn't buy Mario, we didn't buy Link, but we got Star Fox, so he can be in the MCU.
It's like when Sony got that Spidey deal. They just take one character.
Yeah,
but then they don't even use Fox; they just use Falco, and everyone's like,
yeah,
"Who's
really?
this guy?"
Oh, one day
All this money for Star Fox so that we
when
can
we
get
get to
Falco.
Secret Wars, you'll see Star Fox. It's like, oh, okay, and they'd
Wrong
fit
Star
right
Fox.
in. They'd fit right in Rocket and stuff like that. Howard the Duck, I'd be so down.
That's right.
So dumb.
Okay, yeah. So for the Inner Circle episode part 2, I think this was a step up. I think a big reason for that was just more X-Men inclusion. I mean, the X-Men were in the last episode, but just having them like in the same vicinity of our villains, I'd like that more. We had Wolverine. We just broke down the scene, like messing with that waiter, getting that chicken wing. Or no, he says turkey. That's what he does. He takes a bite. He's like, turkey.
Yeah.
And then
He's so like there's so much like it's even weird for him. Like Gene could potentially endanger, and he's just eating turkey. It's both Scott and him they're struggling with their emotions this episode.
Yeah, I don't think I love the showdown that Scott has with what's his name? Wyman?
Wingard.
Wingard. Yeah, there you go. Jason Wingard.
Jason Wingard. So I think I like the idea of them having like that battle within Jean's psyche, more so of just the fact that like his connection to Jean being like in her subconscious. Well, she's Phoenix in this point, but like in her subconscious, Jean's in there, and she's kind of like.
Yeah.
Helping out Scott, like getting her in there. So I do like that setup, but like the actual like execution of it. When Taylor brought it up earlier, but when they go to like the full Musketeers outfits, I was just like, what are we doing here? Like this is I get it, he can't use his powers, but like I just hate the Hellfire's obsession with this like colonial time. Like it's just so strange to me. So didn't love that, but there was some cool effects in there, especially when he was calling out to Jean, and then you would that's Wingard again. He like takes his physical form and then goes to it's like a white face version, just like I don't know those trippy things that can happen when the white face version. That
White
sounded
face
bad
version,
in hindsight. In hindsight,
You haven't
that's not
seen
what I
this
went
power
for.
yet.
So I think I liked some of what was done there, but not fully. But definitely a step up from that last episode for me. But still not loving the Hellfire Club here.
Definitely a big step up for me. I think I like the Hellfire Club more in here just because seeing them get bopped so easily. And Wolverine was a delight because he's just
Not the route I thought it was going there.
no. Wolverine doing his own thing, that was really funny. And when he got everyone like helped everyone get free, and that whole battle kind of like commences here. You see this one scene. I'm pretty sure it was with Scott, and I don't know if Rogue was with him or I can't remember. It was Cyclops. He's standing there, and one of the Hellfire Club guys is like, I don't know what his name was or what his power really was. I guess he was like tanky, absorbing, like he could just withstand lots of damage, very durable. And he's like, I wish I could remember. I should have wrote down the line. He says something and he charges at Scott like, "You can't hurt me. I'll take you on." And right at the last second, Scott like lasers the floor. He's like, "Ah!" He's down for the count. He's done.
That's the same guy. That's the same guy, right? That Beast was like spinning around, and then he's like,
That's Shaw.
That's the guy.
Oh yeah, Beast was aggressive this episode. Oh yeah, actually, this 4-part series. There's a couple times where he just would snap at characters like, "Geez, oh."
He used like a laser gun later on too, like when they're teaming
Yeah.
up on Gene. I was kind of surprised by that, but
He hasn't recovered from that breakup still too. Our characters are having a rough go. Yeah, they're having a rough
right.
go this season.
except for Jubilee, she's on vacation with 3 other guys probably right now.
just banging them all, having a great time.
Banging
like-
long shot. Yeah.
yeah, everybody. Yeah.
But I liked how it transitioned to them just playing off of Jean's emotions. I liked how she was just getting like I think they emphasize it more in the next episode, but like this is like the taste, as you said, the delicious senses. She's just kind of like she likes this. Like I don't know what love is. I don't care about love. I've tasted like evil, and I want more of it. Like she's just going
Full evil.
Full
And
evil. Yeah.
I will say I've said I don't love the like colonial like outfits of them, but man, I kind of like Jean's or Phoenix's, whatever she was in this one, with like just like the hair up.
It was
I was
fun.
like,
Yeah.
man, like if she's ever in like a Marvel Alliance game, I would love to throw on that costume with her and just like
very rare.
It's very different, but she just seems like a vampiric like countess to me. That's the vibes I was getting, so I was liking it.
There we go. We can sell Taylor or Kirkland on this photo shoot when we do it. 2 years from now, we're gonna get our suits. We're gonna get it in a backdrop and stuff like that. I would just love though. Yeah, we got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 4, and we put an alternative costume for Jean Grey. What is it? The Hellfire Club.
No, that's her
Phoenix costume.
classic one. You have to like pay
Yeah.
to get her original.
Yeah.
Oh my
You're stuck
God.
with the Hellfire.
I was
version.
like, who's this for? And we're
That'd
like,
be brutal.
right here.
It's for me.
You
Right
have
here,
to
big
pay
guy.
for her actual costume.
Yeah.
The default is the Hellfire
Not even
one.
unlockable.
yeah, the default's a Hellfire one. Everyone's like, what is this shit? See, that's
That
where
would be
it
like some of the weird costumes in Ultimate Alliance 2 that were like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Like, no one wants to use these costumes.
Well, and that's what would be great if we actually got like an X-Men Legends 3, because I could see that happening if you had like that was a great thing with Marvel Alliance 1 when you had one and you had 5 costumes in that game. If there was an X-Men Legends like that again, you could have a shot at getting that Hellfire one, you know? So
No, it's funny you mentioned that because I had that in my notes that I was like, man, I feel like this episode would have been a really fun X-Men Legends level of like starting as Wolverine. Maybe you accumulate some other X-Men throughout the level and just going up the several floors, going through the kitchen, the dining room area, and then like all these different fucking inner circle guys as like mini bosses as you're going up. Like it just seemed very video gamey to me, and even like Wolverine healing up with some turkey and all of that. Like I don't know, it would
That's a
just
good
work.
point.
So
Yeah.
I would really be down for that.
Oh, you could even make the X-Men Legends 3 like the Dark Phoenix. Like the way they did X-Men Legends 2 as Apocalypse. Like this story,
Yeah.
you could make the whole game like Jean at the beginning, Jean's the boss you fight at the end, and like Thanos, you get to unlock her and have regular Jean and like, man, X-Men, I know that's Marvel Ultimate Alliance 4 has a better shot of happening, but man, I would love if we got that again one day, so.
Me too.
Yeah.
Let's see what else is there. I guess we kind of mentioned this earlier, but like the Cyclops mind battle against, I guess that was Wingard when he has like his Buccaneer outfit and they're like doing some fencing, and like surprisingly Cyclops is like pretty good at that, even though the whole thing is built up as like Wingard's dream and it doesn't really make sense, and then he kind of just like cheeses out the victory at the end anyway. But and then Cyclops is pretty much like his mind is just turned to rubble and ash pretty much, and they're like the only thing keeping him alive is his connection to Jean at that point. So it was getting pretty dark there for a moment, but yeah, I love that just goofy like mind battle he was doing.
What do you do in that situation? Like you're there, the X-Men, you think everything's good. Like you're a prisoner. It's not like a great situation, but like Scott's okay for 1 second, and then all of a sudden just on the ground, like just
Yeah, without saying a word.
yeah.
Get yourself together.
Well, at least hopefully, Terry, you're supposed to say like maybe the danger room has prepared them for this, right, and stuff like that.
yeah.
But I would know in our situation if we were just hanging out and there was like a robber. One, if you just fell to the ground, like grab your head, I feel like I'm done because I'm like, what do I do with this situation? But I feel like they've gone through so much crap that by now it's just like par for the course. We're in season 3. Wolverine's been thrown down a couple times by Magneto because of the metal. Like there's always something. Storm or Rogue's having some sort of fucking nightmare mid-flight. They're always in the air, like and stuff. So they're prepared. They're not prepared if you're switcher, like a changing sort of character, right? They haven't figured that out every season. There's always some character that dupes them, but
Achilles heel.
Always.
yeah, it's their worst thing. Charles, should we
Trust.
focus on this today? No. You should always build trust with your X-Men and know who they truly are. We don't need no code words. And it's like, fuck this guy, man.
Meanwhile, he's Morph or something. It's not actually him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, no. You don't need to focus on that. No, there's no one like that around here. Meanwhile, Rogue can't touch anyone. Everyone, she's like still just railing
yeah.
at her.
Jubilee, how's your weekend with everyone? Rogue? Right? What I was going to say is it was very strange this episode. They had Wolverine kept dropping pulp culture puns. He did the Here's Johnny, and he also did like the, there's a whole build up, but then he did like, come on, make my day, punk. So it was strange in 2 episodes. Like, if you were to tell me this Wolverine, because I don't know if it can happen, but if this Wolverine this episode was drunk, I would believe it. The way he was acting with the wine, the turkey, he was dropping these puns, and I felt like he was not like emotionally invested. He was like the classic kind of like just having a fun time Wolverine. I think he had a couple back at the mansion before he got to this like adventure, because he was
He's
he was having a
stressed,
good
man.
yeah, I guess, but he felt like he was having a good time in a situation where he really wouldn't, because usually you'd just be like Genie, but like in episode 1 specifically too, he was all right, you know.
I was curious of that question because, like, if he was drunk, you'd believe it, but technically he can't really get drunk.
That's what I mean. I don't know if he can. I don't think he can, but
Yeah, it seems like only for a short like seconds, but
Have we not seen a live action like Logan drunk though? I feel like
I think we've seen him like hungover.
I feel like I
right?
had to have,
I don't think we have.
because he's a pretty heavy drinker like throughout the entire.
But those
'Cause it doesn't
cells,
affect
right? That's what I think.
No, you're
it's like-
right. I just
yeah.
feel like in my mind, it's like a Mandela effect. I can like picture him just being kind of sauced at one point. But
That's what I
maybe
thought too. But there's that time you might be thinking of Days of Future Past when he wakes up, he's all groggy.
Yeah.
That's because he got kicked back in time. Remember, because of time traveler. So that's why he
Oh,
was
yeah.
groggy, because he got sent back 30 years. It
And those
wasn't the beer.
goons show up. Yeah, that's
yeah.
right.
So I think it's just that we see him with a beer all the time, but I don't think he's ever like actually drunk. So he probably can't get drunk. So that's
Just
why
likes the
Wolverine
taste.
he's just
It's like cap
pounding him
rules.
back.
Yeah, high metabolism.
Yeah. Anything else on this one episode?
Not much for me. Just like, yeah, Beast spinning Shaw to defeat him was just so bizarre. And then I don't know, it was like
Embarrassing
working,
for
but then I don't know, like Shaw, like it.
They powered him up
was-
for a second, right?
I guess it was. That's why he let him continue to do it.
he
But
was
I
like
feel
in
like he let him
peril.
do it for
His
a
face-
long time.
His face was like scared, and then it zooms in on him. He's like, "Yes." Meanwhile, I'm getting more powerful with each
Guys,
spin.
Beast doesn't know this is my fetish. I love when people every night Emma Frost is just spinning me around in a room.
He's mowing like fucking Jean Grey.
Picture being in that arena and all the other X-Men are fighting in like logical battles, and they look over at Beast and he's fucking spinning some guy on his feet, like looking like he's having a good time. And then it doesn't even end up working too. Like I would have if I was the leader of the X-Men, whoever is like Cyclops, Storm, in this moment, I'd be having like a firm talking to with Beast.
Well, yeah.
After
you
the
got
battle,
Beast,
write
yeah.
it down. I'm gonna bring this up later.
You got
The
Beast spinning
post-show.
him. You got
The next
Wolverine on
meeting.
the side making these puns and everything. Like the whole team is not taking this situation seriously. Jubilee's out there with some guys like Jean's
Charles
back
was just
finally.
shit talking Rogue all the time.
Oh, and Charles was barely involved in like all 6 of these episodes. There's so many times where it's just like Charles and like there's
They call out to him.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like,
I'll wait till
doesn't do anything.
episode. I think it's 5. Oh yeah, it's 5. But then there's one coming up here too, where like he makes a move with a laundry. I'm like very, very selfish move all around. But we'll get there when it happens.
He was making a move on Jean, and I feel like that's when Frost was like,
He's making a move.
he's
Yeah, what does that
wasn't he
mean,
doing
Taylor?
something like his head, like mental state, like
Okay,
doing
that's not what I
something
meant by
towards
move,
Jean.
but
Because then
that's okay.
Frost was like, oh,
That was my
Wingard.
chance.
Scott, what the hell? We
That was my
bonded.
chance.
We bond once Charles saved me. We bonded, and we can't go back.
It was this episode too that he admits that he was wrong and that his like testing that he was putting her through was actually like creating the problem. Right?
Yeah, classic Charles in this show, always creating the problem. Yeah, well, I can't remember if it was this episode or the next one, but it's like, yeah, if she would have been more free-willed, that would have helped her because she could have like put the Phoenix down, but because Charles like contained her away from everybody else and just alone like a little shell, because he pretty much just like he was just like what happened to Wolverine when he has like the headgear and he's in a tank. That's kind of what was going on with Jean and Cerebro. She's just like hanging from a room with like like connections on her head. So like her neck is F the next day, you know, like
Yeah.
big sprains going on there. So
But she grew like a couple inches. Her neck's very
yeah,
long now.
Phoenix just like has a like a
Giraffe neck.
yeah.
Gene, you look so different. Everyone's like staring up at her.
Looking like a Leo Battle Angel or something.
Good pull.
Anything else?
That's all.
Nope.
That's all for me.
All right, now we get thumbs up for me.
Same. One thumb.
Oh, a thumb and a half for Taylor. Wow, he really
I'll do
liked
one
that
thumb
guy
up.
going down those stairs there. Here we go. Part 3. The Dark Phoenix. The transformation of the Dark
Sorry,
Phoenix.
can we stop on that? The episode is called The Dark Phoenix Part 3, The Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, it should have
Yeah.
been
It's very
Rise
stupid.
of the Phoenix. Yeah, it is very stupid.
Anything. Do anything but that. So dumb.
The transformation of the Dark Phoenix is complete. She begins her rampage. When the X-Men confront the Phoenix and ask to give up Jean's body, Dark Phoenix vows to destroy the team, defeating them easily. The forces of the X-Men try to figure out a way to expel the Phoenix Force from Jean's body without hurting her. Who wants to take
There
it
you go.
first?
I thought this was a major step up for me overall in this Dark Phoenix saga. There's some great cameos in this episode. I thought we were gonna be going into like some crazy Avenger level of like just team up type event. You know, didn't exactly go that way, but I still really like the cameos that were shown. I really like just overall like the battle with Phoenix, and yet like just seeing that scale of power that she has. That's something that's always interested me from the character of Jean Grey and specifically Phoenix. Like even just way back when I saw those original live action X-Men, because I always just like, you know, like my favorite character is probably like Wolverine or something, but then in the movies they always emphasize like, oh, Jean is so much stronger than everyone else, and it's like, okay, yeah, I guess so. She's not as cool as Wolverine, but whatever. And then the Dark Phoenix thing happens, and everyone's just stressing how much stronger she is, and that's just always been the case. So to get it here in the animated series, and I don't think they really disappointed on like the fact that they were all like just trying their hardest. She's just like laughing in their face, just like not even like putting dents in her armor essentially. So I thought that was really badass, and yeah, there was some funny lines going. I have this like thing with Storm that I feel like I love the character, but I just can't get over her casting of her spells. I know that's not what it is, but she's just like very grandiose. It's like, I call upon the winds of the earth, and then she like just does the wind attack, and then you just have like Phoenix like laughing in her face, and I'm just like, oh, that wasn't as intense as I thought that was gonna be. And then she had like a follow up, I call upon the power of the lightning, and then nothing again. It's just like, oh, this is hilarious, but I still love Storm. It's still great, but
The Phoenix is like, Jean always thought that was stupid, by the way. And then
God.
kills her.
I know, like just gets way on a personal note. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's like so many other characters. Like if you whiff a
Rogue.
punch, it's like it's not really a huge moment. But for Storm, she puts so much into it that you do feel bad for her when she doesn't succeed.
I was gonna say, but that is usually it, though, right? Where it feels like Storm is usually the big gun. Where in most episodes, when that happens, she turns the tide. Something happens, she helps. So I think that's where I do like it, because she does that, and it's really as powerful as Storm is. She's out of her ballpark here, because the Phoenix Force is strong, but it's the combination of her and Jean. Because the Phoenix Force is, God, has been attached to like T'Challa before. Like it's been attached to a bunch of people, but like the host with Jean is so good because they have that energy bounce. So it's just like these two almost Omega things coming together to be like this like super elite Omega. And that's where I like the Storm thing, because yeah, it is outlandish, but it just shows that even Storm, who I think you could argue is probably the most powerful in the team next to Rogue, and even Rogue, nothing happens there, right? She tries, and again, what's Phoenix's go-to is just fucking laughing in their faces, you know, just looking back and just, you know, just making Rogue feel even worse. So
Yeah.
even if you could touch me, no one would touch you, Rogue. She doesn't have to even fight Rogue. She just throws insults at her and stuff like that. And Xavier's like, "Oh, I taught her well." But
I mean, we've seen Rogue definitely has some insecurities going on.
Oh, yeah.
In this set of
we
episodes.
got a big
here,
episode.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think on this episode, I guess, I mean, this is maybe looking a bit forward here, but I think knowing what happens in part 4, it actually makes me a bit lower on this episode, and I think I'm spoiling a bit my thoughts on the next episode too, but I am a bit lower on these two in general. I think I have some issues, particularly with some stuff in the next one, but even just looking at some of the events that happen in this particular episode, I think they ultimately are kind of meaningless because of what happens next episode anyway. So I'm not as hard on it, though there is still some good moments.
It was the end of this episode, right, where she goes off and she sucks the fucking solar system up, or was that the next episode?
That's like in the middle of the
Shi'ar.
episode, I think.
Yeah.
It is in this
Yeah, when
episode.
she's like recharging. Yeah, and then she
Okay.
I
comes
think she's
back.
still on Earth by this point, like in this episode. Like she doesn't
Well,
go to space.
Well, I thought that
It's-
was
no,
when
maybe
Xavier
that's
did
episode
like his
4
thing,
then.
right, and contained it, and she like took
No,
off.
she
or-
beams off at the end of the last episode, right? Because when that whole inner circle thing, she just fucking leaves, and then it's like just the X-Men versus the inner circle. And then in this episode, she feeds on the star, and that's why the Shi'ar are looking for
In
her
the next
and trying to
episode.
get her.
Oh,
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's right. Because that's where the other cameos happen. Because it's just like they're like
Oh,
reading
yeah.
into like the Watchers there. You got Thor. You got Doctor Strange.
Strange. That was
they're just
cool.
Mhm.
yeah, like it's like a radar ping. Like it's just like holy fuck, who is that? And that was a moment that I just really liked because it's like fuck, like the magnitude of her power just across the entire galaxy is sweet.
How cool would it have been if we got like a nod to that if the Watcher from What If series, just like I know maybe in season 2, but just
You
like,
might. You got the show,
Watcher,
animated
like-
show coming up, right?
the
So-
Watcher's like watching his own story, and he's like, "Huh, that's weird." He looks over and you see like the Phoenix like just bursting off to the side or something, and he goes back to focus on the main story. Just a cool little thing.
It's not the
That'd be a
That'd be
deep
sick,
cut.
especially if
That'd
it's
be
like the
sick. That'd be a deep
'90s
cut.
animated. If it was like animated series too, like that animation, he just looks over and it's just like an animated like Phoenix flying around. That'd be sweet. I'd love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Give it to
Everything
me.
in this episode.
I mean, I definitely would put the other one over this one a little bit more, just because
Whoa.
I like the Hellfire just shenanigans. But this one was kind of cool just to see the, I guess just more of like the Dark Phoenix kind of like going on, because like you said, like I don't have much of a reference point like with the comics. Like my only real reference point is with Last Stand, and then I guess the Rise. What was the movie called? Dark Phoenix.
It's called
Or-
Dark
Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
It's called
It's not
Dark
even
Phoenix.
called
Okay.
X-Men. It's called Dark Phoenix.
It's called the Dark
Uh,
Phoenix.
Yeah.
The Dark Phoenix. Just
So
like this
I
episode.
Part
Yeah.
3.
I have two very different versions of that, and I never really had a clear understanding as to why Jean was just going bad. Like one day she's in a lake and she wakes up and she's fucking pissed, and then the next she's
It's not-
space
not a good
spaceships and stuff like
representation,
that.
Does she like
So-
kill Scott in that moment too?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
he's dead.
Yeah, James Marsden has like 3 minutes of screen time the next 3. Just
Great guy.
It's a Hugh Jackman show, you know.
So yeah, I just think that seeing her development a little bit more here was better, definitely better. But I liked how it expanded on it, and I'm happy that this was just again another part out of a 4-parter. And I liked where they were kind of going into it, because the Shi'ar and stuff like that got me excited in the next episode. Because we'll talk about that. I feel like there were certain things in the next episode which I understand from the movie Dark Phoenix, which they didn't have the rights to certain things. Dark Phoenix in that movie, so yeah, overall I think it was good.
Yeah, no, I think I'm definitely the highest on this episode. I just love the dynamic of it. And I definitely bring some of my comicness in there, but I love the idea of, okay, even with Magneto, there's a struggle that they don't maybe want to kill him and they can work together and stuff. But I love that the struggle physically of, okay, all of them, you see them take their best shot, that doesn't work. And then emotionally of they all have to battle this thing and they don't really want to. They don't know how to defeat it. And that's where I like where there's lots of times where it's like, how do we do this? And then 2 minutes later, it's like, this is the answer. Even by the end of this episode, they've like gotten Phoenix away, but they know it's still in her body. So they still don't really know what to do. And then they get intercepted right away. So it's like, damn, what do we do? I think there's lots of great moments where they kind of are talking about, hey, if it goes bad, someone's going to have to kill her. And I love that like Wolverine steps up and Scott's like, absolutely not. Like, you're not doing this. If anyone, it'd have to be me. And then I love later on when Wolverine tries to go to kill her, he can't. And that's where it snaps for a second and then Phoenix is back. So I love there's just lots of great character moments here. I love the struggle. I think the fight's really good. So yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite episodes. I just think it's the comic. You get a bit more time to stew in these battles and stuff like that, and stew with the magnetism. And I think they do more of it again in part 4 of some really good dialogue between multiple characters. But I thought this was a great setup for like seeing the Dark Phoenix as like its epic power of just lots of fire around and stuff, and just even trying to. I love when she would snap it out and she'd say to Scott like, "Hey, you should just kill me because like look at what would happen." And she shows him a vision, but he's like, "Oh well, you're worth love." And then I love where the Phoenix will break out and what was the line? She says, "Oh, love? I don't understand. Your answer is unacceptable." When she asks Scott Scott, like, why are you trying to save this woman and stuff like that. So again, there's just lots of dynamics with the team, within the team, their team with Jean, the Phoenix. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite episodes, this one. So
It's kind of like an Evil Dead situation. She's just like checking in back and forth, just fucking with them a little bit.
Oh yeah, it is very much that, right? Where they can hit her for a second, and it's very much like boss battle, where she's like weakened. And I love that almost anytime Jean is lucid, she's just like, just kill me. Yeah, she didn't say the other one.
Jean's not here, you fucking idiot. To Logan or Scott or someone.
But that's what I love. In part 4, there's almost a bit more of a hope of like we could try to figure out. But in this one, it's literally just anytime she's lucid, hey Scott, you should kill me. Hey Wolverine, you should kill me, because it doesn't look like there is an end point to this. Yeah, that's what I say. She's not saying that one, but like I enjoy that factor a lot, where it feels very dire straits. Where, and same thing with this team, it's like, okay, if we don't kill her eventually, she is just gonna kill us. So what do we do? And you know, like they figure it out.
Gotta get Jubilee. Where's Jubilee? We need her.
Xavier tries to apologize, and Jean just pushes him away out of his chair and stuff. So again, lots of great little tie-in stuff. So
yeah, I had something to say, but I just remembered it's the next episode, so I'm just going to wait.
Do you have something for this episode? Anyone have anything for this episode?
I don't think so. I think overall, I just really enjoyed it. Really good time. So, and that's what I was alluding to earlier on, where like I feel like for the part 4 or the 4-part series, it was just it didn't start hot, and then it just upward trajectory as we went along, which has been nice. It would have been horrible to do the opposite, just like fuck yeah, Dark Phoenix, and then every part after that just a decline. I would have been a little bit sad, but
Yeah.
I'll just jump right into here. So one of my things that I don't really know why they did this, but there's this whole thing where Beast is like, okay, let's build this mnemonic scrambler, and then when everyone hears this idea at the expansion, they're all like, oh fuck yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Let's build this thing.
I'm a fool, I didn't think of that. Yeah.
I know, like, it's gonna work, all this stuff. Does anyone want to test it? They're joking around even. And then they do it, they build it, and they use it on her, and they do this whole lure. We can talk about that. But like, I don't know, she just like immediately breaks out of it, pretty much, and then like,
I don't think they got to use. Did they actually get to fully use it? I thought they never.
She was
actually
screaming, like it was doing something.
It's on her head.
She takes it off and like melts it. Pretty
Yeah,
quick.
I just took it that they didn't complete it. Like it wasn't like an upload thing, because it's pretty much supposed to just comatose her. So I feel like it was just she fought out of it and then she melted it. Yeah,
I took it like the Phoenix power is just so powerful that it like they thought that this would work, but she's incalculable on her power.
Or maybe it
levels.
would have worked if like they would have knocked her back to Jean form and then put it on her, because then you could get Jean easily down. But I think they just classic boss battle miscalculated when they were going to put it on, and it didn't work out for them.
Like a Star-Lord moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I just feel like like a minute prior, we see the Phoenix go into space and like eat a star. So I don't know why we need to do that. We're like, they're trying to show, oh, she's very strong. Like, I don't know. I feel like we already know that. So it just felt like kind of a bit of a waste of time to do that little sequence.
I thought she was just recharging because like all the damage she's taking. I don't think she's in danger of dying, but I just took it as like just a power up. Because at the end of the day, we are talking about like Dark Phoenix, but like some of them, like Storm, Xavier, Rogue, they are powerful mutants, right? So it's like I still think she could kill them all, but it's not gonna like, go down without a fight. So that's why I took it. She was just like need a little boost.
Yeah. I like the idea of them using. Well, actually, I don't really like it. The more I thought about it, using Jean and her family's home as like kind of a lure to get her to come down, and then like that's when they spring the trap on her and stuff. Like, is it actually her parents' house? Like, are her parents actually there? Because that just seems like a massive risk. That seems very un-X-Men like to do that kind of thing, unless it's all fake. But I don't really. I didn't get the vibe that it was fake.
No, I don't think it is, but I think they do that. And even in the both Phoenix movies, she always ends up back home. Like,
is her parents there in the Dark Phoenix movie? I couldn't remember. I know she went back to her house, but I was trying to remember.
Yeah, in the Dark Phoenix one it is, yeah, because you got like a shitty alcoholic dad of like, you killed my wife, and like type of that shit. And in X-Men 3, there are no parents. Like, they've moved away and stuff like that. So I think that's just like a tribute to the comics. And I think they do that because she's just trying to look for some sort of connection. And yeah, that is the trap that they use on her. And yeah, she has that vision of the people just driving away and stuff. So
I like that she has a little Cyclops, not Scott Summers, but a little Cyclops toy in her bedroom. I thought that was kind of funny. And then Like her cat's name is Prometheus, which is kind of a
Prometheus,
interesting
yeah.
choice for me. But the cat obviously does not like her. The cat, because cats can sense that energy and tell that she's fucking evil at this point.
That's what takes her down. Just this, like, slits her throat as she's Jean and, like, oh! Scott, like, runs in with the transmitter, like, oh, we found a new one to save. And she's just bleeding out on the carpet, just
New member of the
dying.
X-Men. That cat.
Prometheus.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Phoenix goes into Prometheus and just like,
Oh, God.
yeah, that's a lot of scratches and stuff like that. One line I really like when Taylor, you're talking about like the Evil Dead thing. She's down at one point. They're talking about, I think, putting the transmitter on her, and I think it's Xavier. He's like, she's unconscious. Hurry before she. And then she sits up as a phoenix and she goes, recovers, and she like pushes everyone away. I fucking love that. Like it is just like
that's
a
good.
Deadite thing. And then there's a great line where, because it does happen like 3 times in a row, and then Rogue catches Wolverine, and she's like, "What is this? Catch X-Men Day?" So I like that in the middle there going on, and then yeah, again, I like that Wolverine when he was about to kill Jean, he was like all hyped up for it. He's like, "Oh, it's gonna go down one way, and this is it." And then he gets those flashbacks, and then Jean even asks him to, and he can't. But I like just the little touches of the whole. Even though it's funny, I feel like at the end of this, it's definitely resolved. It's like she's definitely with Scott, but he had those things of like, I'm waiting for you too, Gene, like those flashbacks to season 1. So I like the splicing of that, where he just was trying to be big shit, and and that's very much like the comics. He always try, like he could do it, and then no, but at some comics he has had to bite the bullet and been that guy that will be the only one to do it because Scott can't.
Well, he's always
Scott
got
can't go through with it.
the nightmare of killing her too, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a recurring thing.
Yeah.
And is he the one who
Well, in
killed
the
her
movies,
in Last
yeah.
Stand? I can't remember.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, that's where that
he
comes
does?
from.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then like I said, in comics it has happened before, so because he has to step up at some point, and then I think that's everything. Yeah, that's everything I have. Like you guys talked about, the cameo's really cool. I like any time the show loves doing that, where they'll pick like 3 characters, show them quickly in a big event, and move forward. But I feel like those all fit. Like Thor, Doctor Strange, and Watcher fit. Like it wasn't like Spider-Man, because like okay, cool, it's Spider-Man with Spider Sense, was like, he's not going to do much against Phoenix. These are like the god tier like heroes that would be like, shit, like what is going, like these are the people that if the X-Men and the Shi'ar don't like stop the situation, they're like next up the bat, you know? So
That's where, like, when I saw them, like, for a second, I'm like, holy fuck, we're getting, like, a major team up here. I'm not saying the whole Avengers, but at least
Dun, dun,
2
dun,
out of
dun.
3 of these characters are gonna
it's-
meet with the X-Men.
It's funny because like they sense that there's a problem. Like, you know what? I'm gonna let the other guys handle it first, and then I'll step in. It's like
Doctor
Yeah.
Strange,
The
he's like
X-Men's got
putting
it.
books on his shelf. He's like, what's that?
I'm in New
No,
York, and
my
they're-
tea's brewing. Yeah, I don't think I'm
Yeah.
gonna go to.
He should have stepped up for sure.
Yeah.
I was very confused by Xavier binding the Phoenix. Like, was he putting it into his head? Obviously not. I was very confused by what he was doing there when he was like binding the power within his own mind.
he was becoming Jean. Like Jean
They
is now
swap
Xavier.
bodies. They
Yeah.
do that in X2. It's one of my favorite things when like Patrick Stewart is talking as Femke Jessamine to Scott Summers, and just like James Marsden's acting this scene. He's just like, "I love you, Scott." And it's just Patrick Stewart. But I think he was just like, I guess he's just like putting some sort of link, because right after that, that's when they say like, "Oh, we've held her down, but we don't know how long we can hold her down for." So I don't know what the imagery is going on there, other than just he's this to
Mine
go
now,
around,
Scott.
locked her up.
Yeah, I took it as like an attempt to just try and suppress or something. I don't know, some CC. He's applying some crowd control to the threat there on the main boss.
Throwing a stun on her, kind of.
Yeah.
And then
Bind, yeah.
I got to say, Lilandra's new look is fucking sick. I like her new design with the armor. Like, she now doesn't have the weird haircut. It's the same shape, but she has like a helmet now. She's got like a trident and everything. So she definitely did some grinding since the last time we saw her. Got some new gear, leveled up her abilities and stuff like that. So cool to see. At least cool to see her back. I don't know if I care much for the story stuff with her, but at least the visual of it, I'm like, let's go. She leveled up.
Yeah, it was a cool end of the episode to have her appear there, because obviously we have the like the Shi'ar observing the Phoenix earlier on, but then at the end, you know, boots on the ground, she's ready to take out a Phoenix.
Definitely.
Anything else?
Nope.
No. I'm a 2 thumbs up for me. 2 solid.
2 thumbs
gold
as well.
thumbs.
Whoa.
Two thumbs.
I'm going middle. Sorry, boys. I'm going middle thumb.
Oh,
Thumb and a half.
I love our thumb rating system.
a great
we
system.
started. Yeah.
It's great.
Can't
yeah.
debate it.
The ending, part 4, the fate of the Phoenix in the Shi'ar Court or Shi'ar Court. Lalandra-
The Shire.
Oh my God.
The
Yeah, let's get-
halflings.
oh, there we go. Next one. Let's rate an X-Men Lord of the Rings crossover. I don't even know what the
my
fuck that would be.
God.
Yeah, that's bookmarked. That we're doing that. Check out our bread and butter. It's great. Let's see. Lalandra reveals that Dark Phoenix vast destruction of a solar system and declare the Dark Phoenix is transformed into the destroyer of the legend and must die. Professor Xavier calls for a trial of combat for the custody of Jean Grey / Dark Phoenix, which pits the X-Men to battle against the Shi'ar Imperial Guards on the blue area of the moon, as both the fate of Jean's entire being and the universe hangs in the balance.
I just want to throw something out here. So this lost civilization they discover on the moon. Now is that connected with any important thing with the overreaching MCU stuff? Not MCU stuff, but just what I thought there was an actual Marvel base situated on the moon or something like that.
A base on the moon.
There's probably a ton of shit on the moon, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything too historic though.
What was
Spaceship
it?
Taylor.
Because
Well,
they keep
Station.
making. I know what you're thinking of. They keep saying that Captain America's on the moon, right?
No,
in the
no, no, not
MCU?
that, not
Oh,
that. I
no?
mean, maybe I'm getting confused, but in Ultimate Alliance 3, where is it
What's
that
the
we go
confusion?
into space and we go to that base of operations?
Atlantia or whatever it's called.
Maybe it is Atlantis.
Yeah, that's
Black Bolt
that's
was a part of it
yeah,
too?
that's the
That's
New
not the moon.
Mutants. Yeah, no, they're in a hidden.
They're in a
city
spaceship or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Some
Okay, never
planet
mind.
or something. Yeah, it's all right. What do you think about the episode?
Oh, it was fantastic. I love getting to see the Kree and the Skrulls. That was cool in there too. And again, that's what you were always telling me. The Skrulls are supposed to be in Dark Phoenix, the movie, but they didn't have the rights to it, right? And we got those other weird aliens.
Well, it's very. No one really knows the full story what happened there, but that was in the original concept art, and Dark Phoenix was going to be Skrulls. But I think because the buyout and stuff, or MCU was about to use them, there was something. Because I think they technically share the Skrulls. It's who else did they share before? Oh, Quicksilver. Remember they used to Marvel and MCU could. So I think it was one of those where the rights were both of them. So it's Marvel could do Skrulls, but they couldn't do Super Skrulls and stuff like that. But they tore that, just made some weird. I don't know, some alien race in Dark Phoenix.
Okay. You look like you're gonna say something there, Kirkland.
I was gonna just share my thoughts. Are you done?
Share it.
I
No,
was gonna
just
jump in.
share them. Share them.
I like this episode. I think it's a bit of a step down from last week's episode. I'm
week,
so
right.
trained. I'm so trained on our weekly reviews on the previous episode. But I liked just how in my opinion just wild the idea of let's just have a fucking battle royale with these two factions to just determine the clash. It's almost like a Mortal Kombat type story elements. It's doesn't really make a lot of sense, but we need characters to clash, so let's just do it. And I was
their
all
tradition,
game for
right?
it.
It's that, I guess that's the only reason why I like it. It's just because it's just by their law they have to do this. It's that's what I always loved about the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. When you said parlay, that was always the fuck, we have to have a meeting. I love that they do have that code of honor where we'll hear you out, we'll come to terms, and not everyone knows it, right? Because they're how does he know this? And it's well, because he was banging Lalandra and stuff like that. So I'm sure he learned some things. So
He was reading the code of conduct of the Shire.
even though he says something really creepy in the episode, he's you won't let me access your mind like you used to. And it's just clearly you guys had a falling out, Char. Was he just acting was it just on the side? Did she know? Or was it a thing where she'd be there and be oh, hey, Charles. In her mind, I don't know. It was a weird line. He's you won't let me access it like it was before.
He was like an MSN back in the day, They used to chat a lot, and all of a sudden, not replying
Blocked.
message so much. He's got 16 cents, no
Yeah.
no replies. It's
Have you
man,
seen
He's
this
only
funny
just
video?
reacting, and that's it.
Yeah, the thumbs up, yeah.
And yeah, I just like the roster of the two factions. Obviously, our X-Men as well as the one guy, Meteor, I think was his name.
Gladiator?
Gladiator.
No, he was the
We
one
meet
that,
again, Rogue. I
No,
love
Storm.
that show.
Storm was pumped to fight him because he was throwing the earth at her. He kind of
yeah.
looks like an alien thing, but he's I think it's
I didn't
Meteor
catch
or
his name.
Earthquake or something.
Yeah, I didn't
I'll
catch
have
his
to
full name.
check it out. But he just had a cool look because he just looked like a Cyberman. That's my pull. I never do Dragon Ball Z pulls, but that's my Dragon Ball
There
Z
you
pull.
go.
He looks like a gray Cyberman. So I just like that character as well as the other ones in there.
Yeah, I had some fun with the duel and the characters, the battle, and that stuff. I'm kind of the opposite of Travis though, where I just don't feel like there's really much going on with the characters and development here, and I was pretty disappointed that this whole saga had zero stakes or consequences to it whatsoever. And so we can break into that, but I got to say I was actually kind of bummed with the ending of this saga here, especially that it's not just the Dark Phoenix saga. We also had the Phoenix saga earlier this season, which was a multi-episode string, and like I don't know, it's what this whole season really was. And obviously, there's still a couple episodes after this, but this kind of feels like more of the finale. And yeah, I was pretty bummed by it at the end of the day, I got to say.
Oh. I like this one quite a bit. I like the. It's definitely not as high as the just previous episode, but I enjoy the battle. I really like the situation between Alondra and Xavier, because I feel like now you can see the dynamic shifting, because she talks about that a few times where it's like, well, I have different responsibilities now, and they're like, because something when the X-Men are just getting destroyed and Xavier's like losing his mind, and one of her guys like, oh, you should go over and console him, and she's like, well, that's not what like an empress would do, but she wants to. So I really like that dynamic still. Phoenix is just kind of there as like a objective thing now. It's not really, I feel like that was last episode where it's like, okay, X-Men versus her, that's the story, it's kind of done, it's going to separate. Obviously Jean does have a bad fate, but it ends up being okay, Guardians of the Galaxy style. But I like this one. I think it's a good enough send off, but like for me it's just kind of like it's weird because it's not a prologue, it's still ending the story. But for me, the end was like the previous episode with the Phoenix when they beat her, and obviously you got to get it out of her, but that could have just been they find some quick way to do it. So I thought this was like a good serviceable episode for me, but definitely not one of the best ones ever or something. But as a package I enjoyed, I guess. So I don't know. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Something else that really stood out to me that I actually really liked was I think it's a conversation between Scott and Jean, and it's when Jean is not Phoenix mode, and she's just like really feeling the weight of like what's going on here. Like she just like destroyed like a galaxy, and she's like what happens if this happens here? Like all of Earth, everything that we like are fighting to protect could just be gone in an instant without even her really having much say in it. Just that's like the sway that the Phoenix has on her in that moment. And he drops the line like, you're not evil, like you can win this. And it's just it's not like a long discussion, and like it's not like the most well written thing ever. It's just like reinforcing like I guess what's at stake here, and I liked it a lot in that moment. It just I feel like the Scott and Jean thing I've liked it enough, but this one was like, oh wow, that was like one of my favorite interactions between those two characters. I think just the woman that Scott loves, just like knowing that like she should probably die to just save everyone. Like that's just it's not like a new superhero thing. I feel like that's come up many times, but still I guess I like the trope done here.
Well, and that's what I like too about it, is you get like the team, and that's my favorite part of this episode. They've defeated the Phoenix, right, for this point, but it still could pop up, come back, which it does. And I love that they all break off into like groups of two, and they're having conversations about what they should do. And I like that Storm does pitch like maybe it would be best just to let her die. And Beast is like so insulted by that idea of why, like why would you jump to that? Where you got Wolverine and Gambit when they're talking about it, like Wolverine's. He's like saying like he'll do it if he has to, but he thinks there could be better ways. Like it's funny, like Gambit and Wolverine are having a much more civil conversation about it than Storm and Beast. You would think it would be the other way around.
The intellectuals of the group.
Yeah, but because Storm just put that idea out there of like, hey, we might have to kill her, and she didn't really jump like beat around the bush. Just said like that's probably for the best, and Beast's like, she's one of us and stuff. So that's the dynamic of this episode. I really like to seeing them all deal with it, because it could have been they talk with this Shi'ar and then go in the battle, but it's that middle portion. It reminds me a lot of before Helm's Deep, when you just have 10 minutes of all the characters just sitting around talking. That's a nice sword, like that. Obviously this is only like 3 minutes, but I like that there's like a calm before the storm, and multiple characters they don't you're laughing. I'm laughing at that meme now. I'll die as one of them. But I just love that they took the time to give these characters these moments. Be like, okay, they aren't just like, we're gonna fight for Jean no matter what. They are very torn still, even though they want to save Jean. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna skip a bit at the end here, because to me, like I in that moment, I really did like all those conversations. I like that we split off into little groups, and I mean they're all kind of the same. Where one person's like not going to kill Gene, the other person's like considering it. But you get like these different little mini groups where they're having these discussions, and I think that's kind of where it all comes down at the end. Is that I feel like they're setting up so much about like either they're gonna have to make the sacrifice and kill Jean, or someone's gonna have to sacrifice themselves. That's the thing that comes up very quickly. And Cyclops and Wolverine are both like, I love that moment that they're both like immediately like, no, take me, save her. I don't even care if I'm no longer in the picture. And like they're kind of fighting about that, which is a pretty classic thing. But then I hate that the solution is that actually all of you can just kind of like share a bit and like of the power, and then Jean will be completely okay. And then I guarantee for the rest of the series, it's not going to be like, oh yeah, Rogue, like I'm 20% less powerful because we did that soul transfer. Like it's going to be the exact same from here on out. So I just feel like none of it really mattered. And then the other element with that is that the Phoenix was like, okay, well, I guess I learned my lesson and I'm actually just going to leave. And so it's not like anyone duped or outsmarted the Phoenix. But then I also don't feel like there was really any sort of development, right? And I think it's hard to do when you have it all coming from Jean and all the dialogue is from the same voice actors and stuff. I think it'd be hard to do that where like the evil side, the Phoenix side, is slowly learning more about like human emotion and getting there. But then like obviously if there's any sympathy coming from the character, they always just have that as like, okay, well Jean is present in this moment. Right. And so I don't feel like it doesn't really make sense. It's just kind of like a coincidence. Like I guess the Phoenix decided to piss off, and then there was no consequences on the team. I understand it's like a Saturday morning cartoon. They don't want to kill off a main character or something, but like, I don't know. I think I needed a little bit more here, whether that is just Jean having to die for this thing to end, or someone to sacrifice, or someone to lose their powers. I don't know what I would have wanted, but I just needed some level of consequence, or like for any of those conversations to actually matter, and for someone to actually take that shot at Jean and try that, even if it didn't work or something like that. I just feel like it was a lot of all talk, no show, and it's kind of disappointing that was what this whole thing was building up to. And once again, like I think back to the previous episode and Wolverine in that moment where he's about to kill her, he has her dead to rights, but then he can't do it. But like I just don't really feel like any of that really matters because of where we are at the end of this episode. So it unfortunately kind of brought down the whole quadrology for me.
Yeah, there you go ahead.
I was just going to say, I kind of back that up. I feel like there was a lot of depth in those moments leading up to this, and I would have liked this episode a lot more if there was something very impactful, but the only impactful thing was Rogue's feelings in the next episode, which is what it comes down to. So I wish that we definitely had something that was more heavy, because this is like a four arc series here, and it's very important. We got the Phoenix happen before, and there's a Dark Phoenix now, and this is our Dark Phoenix going evil. And just to kind of cap it off in a happy ending, it does kind of take away a little bit from it.
It's very Saturday morning cartoon, like just tie a bow on it. Let's move on to the next arc now. But no, I think you bring up some really good points there, Dylan. I definitely felt just like, a little flat on the finish there. Like it didn't hit as hard as what it should have, just for what it was building up to. Like this is a four part arc, like 4 episodes leading up to this. So I think I just wanted a little bit more of like what you were just saying, like some sort of consequence, whether it's a side character that gets murked because of it, or just someone is weakened for the next few episodes, maybe for the rest of the season, or there's something to like have like a permanent effect.
Even stuff like that. Like I know Morph was a very minor character by the time he had died, and then he comes back later, but still like that happened, and that was a big surprising thing, and like consequences were had for them fucking up this mission. And even if he does come back later, it's like things were forever changed because of that. Or even like Beast going to prison for a whole season. Like they did that, right? Like there can be consequences that are had. And I just feel like X-Men as a team, such a deep roster of characters that like, I don't know. I think it would be cool and bold if they were to drop one of these main casts, and like they have a million other characters they could bring in. We've already been introduced to a Colossus or Iceman or something that could sub in if they feel like they need more people on the team for the show to run or something like that. But yeah, I just feel like this is such an important story, and for it to really kind of be meaningless, like what, 0 people died by the end of the Phoenix thing because the Phoenix ate some other random solar system that had no life on it. So by the end of it, like, it really actually didn't matter, really at all, which is kind of too bad.
Yeah, I think I enjoy like the previous 2 episodes enough to just I like the showdown between the Phoenix and the X-Men and what happened there, but yeah, it seemed like it's like a side mission, like it's not, which is weird to say because it's the Phoenix Saga. This should be like one of the biggest things ever, but I think this is really just reaffirming my thoughts of like, wow, okay, I didn't like the Phoenix Saga as much as I was expecting to. It definitely isn't my favorite arc so far that we've done in the animated series, and that's okay. Yeah, I don't have to love all these arcs. Another example too of a character that was like permanently changed that it just popped in my mind would have been someone like Archangel. Although that's not like the X-Men like affecting that, like that's still a character that he's forever changed. Like every time we meet him, I feel like he's still just dealing that change that happened. So I think that would have been very fitting to do that as well with Phoenix. I don't know. Maybe Travis, you could speak upon it. Like, how is it different? Like in the comics, like
well, I think and that's where I guess where I come at from the different angle of why I don't want to sound like Taylor about it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey, and that's where I like it because it's like what we get from the characters in the middle is why I like it, and you got to think it from the show standpoint. It's smaller, but in comics they kill her off, and comic books you would get once a month. So her being gone was a long time. So her actually coming back as a Phoenix was a big deal. Her being the Dark Phoenix was a big deal because you got to think we live in an age where how many good guys have turned bad guys, we fight them, right? But this was like the first time for the X-Men, like you're fighting one of your own. So I think the show, I think that's why they did the Phoenix Saga and they did all those random episodes and then this to try and make you feel like there was some time in between. So that's where I guess I'm always on board because the stakes were that they had lost Jean and we had 6 episodes with no Jean, right? She was dead and gone and stuff like that. We saw Scott, and that's where the stakes were, where we did get to see Scott in a different state. Now it is, yes, they do get to be happy at the end, but I think it's because I like that stuff so much in the middle portion. That's why the ending result of, and yeah, I think them just like holding hands and no weakness, yeah, it's kind of a cop-up, but I think it's because the stuff in the middle I really enjoy. It's worth getting her back because and even when she's Phoenix, she's on the team, but it's not Jean. So we haven't really had Jean proper on the team since season 3, right? So that's to me where, for me, the stakes are in the story leading up to it and stuff like that. But yeah, you could have killed someone off, and I don't think they killed any major characters in the in that one. And I think even then, same thing when Jean, like they like kill her and she does come back, but I think her death is like a little.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like someone could die and then, in a very comic booky way, like we can bring them back later, but you can at least end it with like a bang and deal with the repercussions of that for a while, and you can have characters having to deal with the loss of, let's say it's Cyclops in this situation, and then fuck it, mid-season 4 he can come back and we can deal with it then. But yeah, I guess it's kind of weird from that perspective that they've done that before with characters where something big happened but then they just come back later anyway. Like it's weird that they didn't even do that for this. I wonder if it's something of like maybe they didn't know if they were doing a future season or something like that, and they wanted to end it in like a good way, considering this is more or less the end of the season with only a couple kind of, I'll say, smaller episodes to close it out. But
yeah, I definitely think that whatever you feel about this, I feel like they should have ended on this and not the 2 random like it's a very odd way to end the season and stuff. Even the Rogue episode, I think you could have made that like a pilot for next year, right? Like, 'cause it picks off of her being like, oh, look at those 2 in love, So it's very odd. So,
something I was gonna, or do you have another point on that, Dylan? I was gonna.
No, I saw Taylor's hand earlier, so I thought he was gonna say something.
The ship sail, I was like, just low key, but I guess I'll say it. It was just kind of piggybacking on like what you were saying there. Well, not piggybacking, but you said like, this is like the first time the X-Men was losing someone with like a hero becoming a villain. They had to fight this villain, but I thought like, wasn't that what they just went through with Morph though? And
no, I was talking about in the comic books where I was talking about like the differences there and stuff, and like they got Morph back. But even then, like, we're right, we lose Morph and it goes to Mr. Sinister, but we only knew Morph for an episode, right? This is like losing. In this season, we lost core X-Men. We lost the love of Wolverine, the wife of Scott and stuff like that. But yes, shout out to Morph. We did lose Morph, and we did lose Beast for a little bit in prison, right? So
didn't lose Morph soon enough, in my opinion. I was gonna ask the question about Phoenix. Why is Phoenix evil? I don't.
Emotions.
I never really thought about this. I never really thought about this until like watching this show, and then like her resolution is just like for the Phoenix entity, it was made to protect that crystal, right? The Mycar crystal or whatever it was called.
The Micron crystal, yeah.
Micron crystal. And then it seemed like they disposed that in the sun, or maybe that's like their vault for now. They're gonna just keep that there. But like, why is the Phoenix wanting to murder the X-Men and like just just destroy galaxies? Is it to survive? Just take the sun and explode, and that's how they recharge? I was just confused on what the actual motivation was, and I wasn't confused. I never questioned the Phoenix until we got to the end. She's like, I learned my lesson. I learned emotions, and I am a good little Phoenix now, and I'll maybe see you in the future. And then she just goes off like a mother bird. It was just very weird.
No, I mean, that's a good point, because I think from the perspective of like eating suns, like that's specifically just for survival. This thing to live needs to feed on suns, which is inherently a very, very dangerous thing, but it's such a non-human that it doesn't really think about what any of that means. But it is weird that it comes out through Jean as like a deadite, pretty much, as you guys mentioned earlier. It is kind of weird that it comes out in that way, and maybe that is just the push and pull of having the Phoenix being inside of a human's body and that coming through a human's mind, a human's brain, in terms of like how that stuff comes across to other people, if that makes any sense. So I don't know. It does seem a bit weird though, and now that you mention it, I'm like kind of questioning it too.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I feel like it's cheesy, but when you get these big powers, it's just, I look at it as like it's just an eater of worlds. It just wants power. And even like when we talk about the delicious senses, and I love the line too when it's fighting I can't remember who at one point it's fighting, and the Phoenix just goes, "Oh, it's not as fun when they're weak," and stuff like that. And in a cheesy way, like in a Saturday morning cartoon way, the Phoenix being like, I know what love is. It is very kiddie, but at the same time, like I understand that type of point of that's how they won, right? Was their bond together kind of showed this something, and it's happened a bit in the comics, but I guess that's the way I just go, okay, yeah, it's just an all-consuming thing that wants power. The X-Men are in the way, the She are in the way, and stuff like that. And here we go. And yeah, like I said, it's a little cheesy. And yeah, when we do, like, it's fun. Like, we got that in this obviously happened first, right? But like, you got that in Guardians at the end when they all hold hands. That's the ending of It. So maybe they ripped off from It. Like, they could have been bold and done the comic book ending and like actually like killed her off and stuff like that, because with that one, but I just don't know if that would be too heavy, because what happens is it gets down to her and Scott, and she he's gonna try and stop her, and she like freezes him in place, so he has to like watch her sacrifice and kill herself. But also, I just feel like they've already, like, I feel like Jean's like sacrificed herself like 3 times this season, so I think that's a part of the problem too. So the comic book ending is better, but I get from a point of view why they didn't do it. And even then, like, as we just talked about, she does that and she still comes back, right? So it's not this thing where it's like, because what happens is Scott falls in love with like what's her name? It's Madeline something. And it's a clone that, of course, Sinister makes, and it's of Jean Grey's DNA, but he doesn't know that. It's a separate person. It's like, let's say if Emily died and I met
the clone of Emily.
Jennifer, but it looks pretty much exactly like Emily, so that's why Scott falls in love with her. Oh, it's Madeline. I think it's Madeline Pryor. I think she has a weird name, and everyone's is kind of like, she looks kind of familiar, and then real Jean comes back, and it's a whole thing. So it's the same thing. Even the comics, when they go for that ending of, oh, it's really heavy, she's back, So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think like baby. Just referencing those original live action movies too, like it's always Jean struggling to just control her powers, and I feel like that's just how I took it. Like I didn't really think of the Phoenix being like this intergalactic being that just possessed her. And like even in this episode, the Phoenix says like, to save all that exists, I became one with Jean Grey, and it's just like, it's kind of a funny way to save everyone. Holy crap! Look at that.
Yeah, Madeline Pryor.
She is something. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
What's that image of her with that
I don't
blonde
blame
dude
Scott for
on the top one? Yeah,
Where?
that's a
Which
good.
one?
That's a good rebound.
Here.
Over. Yeah. Is that Scott? No, that can't be.
No, but yeah.
What a loincloth.
They use I wouldn't read
Goblin Queen.
Holy
read too
fuck! Great
so
Goblin?
she's not in the show, but don't read too far, Taylor, because you might get spoiled on something.
You'll get Grey
They-
Goblin down there.
They take a
I saw him.
storyline of that and they use it for the show, but they take out Pryor completely, just because it's just they didn't kill her and stuff like that. But hey, Scott's got game. Alan Pryor, Emma Frost, Jean Grey, him and Wolverine.
Dazzler. Don't forget Dazzler.
Yeah.
Dazzler was on him second time she saw him. Right
Day
there.
2, night 2.
He's got a good jawline. He's a handsome guy.
Oh yeah.
I like seeing the Kree and the Skrulls in this. It's pretty meaningless. It's just a fun little moment there, but I thought it was cool nonetheless.
Scroll that voice. You said you'd deliver her.
The
Very
Skrull
evil.
Queen.
Yeah,
actually,
Skrull
which is
Queen.
kinda
Yes.
cool. Wonder if we'll see that in a Secret Invasion.
We
Yeah.
will. Episode 4. It's coming up. Get
I
ready.
hope. I that's what I don't love about being a Disney Plus show. I do like the Skrulls when they have like kings and queens and Skull Supremes, where now they're just like, hey, I'm a guy that's disguised as Doug. And it's like, okay,
The
cool.
council.
Yeah,
Dear
right.
Doug.
The council. Yeah, it's like I'm the president of Russia from this left side. It's just like
Jean whips out her old X-Men costume. Have we seen that in the
a
show?
flashback.
Yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounded familiar, but it didn't look familiar to me. I guess it's because it was so quick before when we saw it. So
Yeah.
not my favorite costume. I'm glad that it's left in the past.
Is it like the Electro one with like
it does
the
look
yellow?
a little electro like
Yeah.
with
Yellow
the
mask,
yellow like spikes on the head for sure.
I think when we got it was the Iceman episode. Remember, because they talk about those together, Beast and Scott, and they have a
Right.
flashback of them as like the first class and stuff
Yes,
like that.
right,
It was very awkward of just like, oh, I found my first uniform and put it on. Like, why is your first uniform still in the jet? Like, why is it still like, what's going on? And just like, oh, for old time's sake. Like, I don't know. It was a very. I feel like that should have meant more for me, but it took me out of it, and that's where I was like, oh, what's going on here? But it was funny. Not a great
And then-
costume. No.
And then Kirkland, did you find the name of that golem, like that meteor?
Yeah,
dude?
it was Earthquake, not Meteor.
Earthquake. Classic.
Classic.
Earthquake.
Yeah.
Because you know what he does?
We should
He
have
makes
guessed.
earthquakes.
Powers.
Yeah.
And this is what he
We
looks
should've
like.
did-
A little fuzzy,
Oh.
but I found him.
He looks like a he looks like a Jack Martian from Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Like if they were ripping weights and stuff like
Oh
that.
yeah,
Ripping
look at that like
weights.
cock outline too. He's packing.
Oh yeah, that's huge. We should have just started throwing out natural disasters, and we would have been right. Like earthquakes, such like just like what do we call them? Stanley's just earthquake.
What does he do? He makes earthquakes.
He makes earthquakes, and Storm loves them.
I like the weird like green mech / man
Yeah.
combo.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
Very weird duo, but I was a big fan of them. And then I also like that lady who had like I think her cape was yellow, but then she would just like lift up the cape and it would like shoot light out of it. I
Yeah.
know it's hard to describe, and it had a very weird look that felt like they only had like 20 minutes to make a character, and like, okay, let's sketch this in real quick. But I don't know. I just love a group of weirdos when the X-Men is fighting off against them, and there was definitely a few of them here. I think Earthquake was my favorite of the group, but those other ones definitely worth a shout out as well.
I think they were all like pretty good. I feel like just comparing to, I mean the Morlocks were pretty good, but I feel like there were some that I just didn't really care for. But like all of like this whole roster, just really caught my eye with their individual designs, and yeah, some were a little bit more basic, like the flashbang lady with her cape, just blinding people. But there was one, I think his name was like Hotshot or something, or maybe that was just what Rogue called him. Rogue just was.
I had it in my
shit-talking and
notes,
called
but
him
I
Hotshot.
erased it. It was like Firebolt or something stupid.
Yeah, Thunderbolt. Maybe no.
He just like a Human
like that.
Torch equivalent. Seems
Yeah.
like there's a lot of those. I thought there would be just kind of the one, or with variations, but it seems like a lot of people have like that exact same power.
What was the name of Sinister's boys? His team?
Oh, it was
Dirty
like the
Mike and
Dirty
the Boys.
The Dirty
Yeah.
Boys.
The Smelly Boys or
The
something.
Smelly
right?
Boys or something like that. Yeah. Wild names for these groups.
Wild names indeed. Looking at my notes, when Jean and Scott were having that conversation about her having to do her ultimate sacrifice, I was already talking about that. But I liked what followed of just like the images of like Paris on fire, or that grand thing in like India, I don't know what it's called, but like that was on fire. Just like Manhattan was on fire. Just really just. Well, we're getting a blender going on. There's some margaritas in the background. Travis is cooking up, breaking the fourth wall there. But yeah, no, I really liked just showing like that, because I feel like they didn't really need it, but for me, it supplemented that conversation that they're already having about just what could really happen if the Phoenix does just take over Jean and murder everyone on planet Earth. So I just like that little sequence.
Mm-hmm. Nothing else in my notes for this episode.
Let me take a look here.
Was that your blender, Travis?
What'd you say?
Was that your blender?
What?
Making margaritas, Friday night, getting wild.
This is my blender. It'd be the toilet because I had to pee. So good thing we brought that up. I like at one point at the very beginning of the episode, again, when we're talking about like the Bond.
Peas in the
Logan.
blender. That's
Yeah.
That's
Put the
real
lid on. No. I love at one moment when at the very beginning of the episode, the Shi'ar like encroaching on Jean, and Scott's like, "Don't let him through." And Wolverine steps up, and he says? He's like, "Oh, you got that right." So I love this moment of you got Jean behind Scott and Logan, and they're both ready to throw down. Like I love it anytime it's like they like nip each other, hate each other, but because Jean's in danger, they're both like, "Nope, we're gonna stand arm length and stuff like that." Beast, I don't want to butcher it. He gives this whole explanation of time or teleportation to Gambit, and Gambit's like, "Huh?" And he's just like, "AKA time teleportation." And then
in the vernacular.
in the
he
vernacular.
he
Yeah,
loves
exactly.
that,
Yeah, but I just love Gambit's like, "What the hell is he talking about?" This is what I talked about before, where right before the battle, he calls that, and they're kind of like Xavier, and they're kind of discussing the terms. He has like a mind, like connection with Alondra and stuff like that. And he goes, "Oh, I still love you." And she goes, "Oh, I love you too." And he's like, "Through this love, can't you see this battle is wrong?" And she's like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, no, like I'm still doing this." I love that it started as like at first it felt like Xavier was pitching like, no matter what happens, we're still gonna love each other. And she's like, "Absolutely." And he's like, "Because we love each other, you shouldn't go through with this." And she was like, "You're like," she like, and it was a good thing for the show. Like, felt like Charles was completely using her and back right off of like, "No, like I'm still doing this. Like I'm an empress and stuff like that." So I really enjoy that. Again, very like dickheaded, bold move by Charles to be like, "I'm gonna go say I love her," and then talk her out of it. And then I like that it didn't work. So I enjoyed that. But classic Charles being a little shady and
He
stuff.
thought he could just rely on his charm, but it failed him in that moment.
Exactly. He's like, "Watch this, everybody." And
everybody watch
yeah.
this.
Yeah, and then my last thing was Gambit said, "This looks like some spooky Mardi Gras." So there you go. When just suffering,
Cage
like
man.
in the middle of the battle and stuff.
Oh, the
so.
bobble.
And the bobble.
Mabble, the
Bottle.
bobble. That was a good one.
Took a bottle with my pea blender and stuff like that.
Oh,
Margaritas.
Good protein. Good
Go
protein.
protein. Go protein.
just 4 boys here making some
I'm thirsty.
protein.
Yes, protein. How's no one made a like shake
Pre-workout
supplement workout?
thing.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
protein.
It's probably
yeah.
been done. Well,
Yeah.
now that we've said it, all of our search engines we're gonna like get ads for this stuff, just like
Protein.
Oh,
Corsair.
yeah. Like Crosshair. It was like the last I
Corsair.
say like Corsair like I know I always say, but like when they kept saying it and I got that email from some random company. It's like, man, these fucking phones are just like they're just listening. Like
It's not a random
yeah, you want
company. It's Corsair.
but just I'm not with Corsair. Why
mean
they email?
Crosshair?
You bought your mic stand that you bought. That's through Corsair.
This is.
I believe
So
that's
just
the
it
company.
just happened that they
thought it was
emailed me at the
Elgato.
exact same time. Yeah, it's Elgato. What are you talking about?
I thought it was purchased. I thought we
No.
purchased it through
Elgato
Corsair.
sells stands like
Yeah, they do. They're very nice.
wow.
Exhibit
We had saw these like
Exhibit B.
on. I can't remember when.
yeah
but we
I'm
had saw
fucking
these.
holding this one. I need one
Yeah.
of those.
You should. Yeah, you should look at it. Like it's a multi-universe. Like it just moves everywhere. It goes up, down. It's a great one. But yeah, that's all I have for this episode.
I'm going thumbs down. Sorry, episode.
Oh,
but, I think I explained
God.
my reasons well enough. But
Wow.
even the funnish battle couldn't get me through some of the ending story notes. So I think, but honestly, at the end of the day, I'm really curious to see what they do with Phoenix's character from here on out. And it's like, okay, not Phoenix, but Jean Grey's character.
Jean Grey.
What
What
they
Phoenix
choose to
is
do
up
with
to.
Jean and like. What's the justification for wanting to keep her in the show? Or is she just like going to go into the background like she was for the first couple seasons? Keeping my eyes
Hope
up
not.
for that.
Hope
What
not.
I'm very, actually, we'll wait till the show's done.
We'll
'cause I
wait,
think
we'll
we'll definitely gotta before the show starts. I want to do like a predictions episode. So I'm just
Yeah.
curious where they could go with certain storylines and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
Dylan's
That's
got
me.
the frosty Emma Frost thumbs down. I meant to.
Where did that come
man.
from?
That was in that first episode. I meant to pull it up when when we were going over it, when I gave my thumbs down, but I completely forgot. But I'm glad you dropped the thumb down.
You
I was
got to be
waiting for that.
careful when you're googling pictures of Emma Frost. It's gonna get us demonetized.
That was a
on
screenshot
YouTube.
of the Disney Plus, so that was right
Okay, that's
from
good.
the.
There you go.
I'm gonna give this one thumb and a half. I think I really liked like just riding off like the big clash from the previous 2 episodes, and then like the nice sentimental moments between those sets of characters that we got. It was enough for me. Yeah, sure, it fell flat in the end, but I still like the ride enough. But overall, yeah, Phoenix Saga didn't hit as hard as I was expecting. I was really thinking that even with the first like Phoenix saga, like the first 4-parter coming into the Dark Phoenix, I thought all of that was going to be like 2 thumbs coming into it. It's just like, yeah, I saw them butcher it in live action, but animated, they're totally going to make it just a 10 out of 10. It's going to be stellar. And it didn't really hit that way for me, which was a little bit disappointing. Maybe my expectations a little bit too high, but I mean, hey, a lot of people just praise this arc, right? But again, maybe that's more the comic book side, which maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll have to dive into that someday.
Yeah, there's
Maybe
similarities.
CBV?
That gets well, hopefully one day it gets to stew a lot more and stuff. And again, I think it's just because of when it was done. It's one of those first things that happens, right? Like a good guy going bad. It's like it's hard to replicate that nowadays. But back then, that was like oh, look what they're doing with it and stuff. And Phoenix is very popular, and Jean's look is great. But yeah, I'll thumb it a half as well. I think it's funny. I said like these are some of my 4 of the favorite episodes of the series, and they are. But looking at like the ratings, I've given like a middle thumb, a thumb, like a 2. Like they're not as strong. So there's definitely probably some. I think it's just that I still like the Phoenix story overall, and I love that middle episode. That's definitely a top tier one, or the third one. But I guess overall there is probably some runs of 3 to 4 arcs that we've done that are stronger the more we've talked about it. But thumb in the middle for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna do thumb and middle as well. I think that of all the different versions of the Dark Phoenix saga and this conclusion, I think this is definitely like the best, I would say. I don't know how in comparison to what the comics and that source material, but this just feels like it's the most kind of like makes sense, like narrative linear storytelling for me.
How dare you naysay X3? Come on, that is a all-time great.
It's been a while.
Sucks, Dylan. Come on.
Yeah, Dylan hasn't rewatched it in a minute. I always try to get him to rewatch
I have.
it.
I've rewatched it somewhere.
I will say though, I had the DVD way back in the day, and it was really cool because when you would open up on the DVD, there'd be like the 2 factions, like the Magneto's side and then like Charles's side, and then you would select your side, and it would like do the theme of like the menu depending on which side you were. So really cool. Like I don't know if it was a Blu-ray or probably before Blu-ray, but that DVD copy that was really cool. And as a kid, I loved the movie, but I was tainted
This
rewatching
next
it.
generation of streamers, they're missing out on like some gold like DVD like menu screens.
Man, I finally purchased the Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. Never owned them. Got the 4K version. Oh man, the menu! I just like had it on with like the music and just like going through the Shire.
That's great.
Anytime I can bring up Lord of the Rings, I will, even on X-Men.
Yeah, the crossover is coming. Last 2 episodes, Orphans and Cyclops discovers that Crosshair is his father. Corsair is on the run from sheer authorities who demand Scott turn himself over. That's it.
That's all, folks.
Yeah, that's really all you need. Honestly, for me, there's like maybe 1 minute worth of dialogue that I enjoy, and then the rest of this episode is like a complete dud for me. I'm definitely a bit negative here in the ending of the season, but man, this episode is one of the most boring episodes of the show. It might be the most boring. Like, there's probably worse stuff, but this is probably the most boring episode across the whatever it is 40 episodes we've gone through.
Wow. Yeah, for me, like I don't think it's anywhere. Like it's definitely lower tier, but I think for me, it's just like one, we get more with Scott, and I like that, and I like this stuff that with his dad, and I think it's just like a fun little adventure episode. It's nothing that I'm gonna be thinking about. Wow, I love that episode, but it didn't it didn't offend me or anything like that. So I had a good time with some things. So no, I liked it overall, but it's still a weird pacing. I guess it's tied with the Shi'ar and whatnot, but I think for Scott, I like that he gets this episode.
Yeah, I like this episode enough for what it is, but thinking of the placement in the season makes me like it less, and this is something that I kind of wish I had like before the Dark Phoenix saga started. Like I really would have been more satisfied if the whole the whole season just ended with that. Also, it would just give us more time separating the Phoenix Saga to the Dark Phoenix. I think that would have helped as well. But yeah, this was a very, like, I would say filler episode, but like it's not really, because you find out more about Scott's dad, I guess. But
and he learns, so it's a big reveal. Like he's changed, right? Because he didn't know it was his dad. So
the reveal when it happened, when he was like, "Wait a minute, what's your name?" and he like just says like whatever his first name is, Captain something Summers. It's just like, what? You're my father this whole time. Like he just didn't know. Like he never even asked him for like his actual name or anything.
Yeah.
It was kind of strange,
Cyclops,
but I think, you know, the in between from the start to finish of just the action and interacting with the Shi'ar and just this man on the run with you don't fully know his motivations, like we've seen him in the past, but I like it was good enough. But yeah, especially coming off of the Dark Phoenix, it just, I don't know, it just kind of, it was like a flat soda. It just didn't really have a lot of bubbles to it, but still had the sugar in there that I wanted. But yeah, no bubbles.
I see what you guys are saying with it actually being after the Phoenix Saga, and that's kind of a negative. I can definitely agree with that, but I will say I actually enjoyed this episode.
This is a Taylor episode for sure.
It is. I do feel like it's a Taylor episode, and it's one of my favorite lines out of like all the arcs, or not all the arcs, all like this arc of episodes.
All 40 episodes.
Reviewing, yeah. Out of this amount of 6 episodes, the just the dynamic between Scott and his dad was really, really funny. I like how Scott was just treating his dad like shit, because his dad like totally justified his actions in saying like, yeah, I put you and your brother on this parachute, you're gonna get out of here, and
which is a wild scene, by the way. Like
very wild. Yeah,
fucking
Scott
crazy.
Still just didn't give him the time of day. But the one thing that like after that happened and we know what his dad did for Scott, there and this scene where Scott does something and then his dad is like, "That's the Scott Summers I gave my last parachute to," and like, what a weird fucking thing to say. That's not a bonding moment at all.
It was for Scott. He's had a fucked up life. You know?
It just seems so fucking twisted. Like your wife probably died here. Like, it was fucked up.
You gotta find the good where you can. You know, it's the little things. And his son's using the parachute, and
on fire too. It lit on fire as soon as he deployed it.
Yeah, and I guess like with Scott too, you are learning about his origins, right? Like why he was an orphan, stuff like that. I don't like any of this. I don't like his dad being a space pirate. I always like when it's not that. I just, as I've said before, this X-Men and space, I can enjoy it, but I have my limits. And Scott's dad being a space pirate who also happens to have these mutant kids, it's just all a bit too much for me as like a concept. But
that's where you draw the line in the grand scheme of
it's like we were talking about last night, the
Marvel.
Indiana Jones review, right? Where there's just certain things where the X-Men's just like, I like when it's more the humanity race.
This is more up your alley compared to Cyclops' dad being a
no,
space
because
pirate.
I don't count that as a mutant. That like should not be a mutant. Like that doesn't, like, he was not. We talked about this before. He was not born with like a tank as his legs. Are like, look at your son. Like I like when it is, hey, it's us versus the world. Like us versus Earth. About how do we help our race move forward? How do we go against injustice and prejudice? Then like on a spacecraft parachuting and stuff. That's not what I find interesting with the X-Men. But I get why they do it, because the X-Men are cool. They have a lot of cool powers, and you can't have them fight Magneto and the Brotherhood every single week, right? So it's like, well, let's put them in space, and other Marvel characters go to space, right? Like how many, we got Guardians, Iron Man goes to space. So it's not like it's unknown. It's
Everyone
just
goes to space.
There's like this, and also next episode where these are two concepts that aren't really for me, especially the finale. Not really for me, but
yeah, this guy is not a mutant. He's a Twisted Metal character. That's what he is.
Yeah,
through a DLC.
Oh, he'd be a great character. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad you confirmed that. You're definitely not coming out of the womb looking like that.
No.
Gosh, unless your
Dylan,
mom looks like that.
Another
bigger
great
tank.
machine. Dylan, the dialogue you're talking about, was that the last scene there? You see, there's like one string of dialogue or conversation that you enjoyed from this episode. And that was it.
I guess, yeah, for me, it's just like whenever Scott and his dad are having those conversations that are unrelated to like the mission and stuff, they're just talking about what happened to them and where their lives are now. Like that's the character development stuff that I'm like okay, I am glad that I am ingesting this and I have this backstory for Cyclops, and I'm sure we'll see Corsair again or something like that. But yeah, I just feel like I didn't really care much for like anything else in the episode. And I mean, even with it, like, once again, it's a Saturday morning cartoon, so maybe I'm getting like too critical on certain things. It's like very rushed from the point of Cyclops being like, "Don't call me son," to him being like calling him dad at the end of the episode. It's like, man, this has been like a couple hours and all. I don't know. They get over it super quickly, but I don't know. It still is good backstory. I'm glad I have this information, but if I'm ever rewatching this show, this is like definitely an easy skip for me. I don't really think I ever need to see this one again. I wanted to say, like, man, that at the start of the episode, when Corsair lands, they save him, Storm helps out, all that thing. I just feel like the way that they set this up of how Scott finds out, so awkward and weird, where he just like he grabs the necklace that has like, you know, the what I forget what those necklaces are called. Like, I guess like a locket. Yeah, locket, dog tag sort of thing.
Whatever it is.
And
the fact that he's like
dog tags.
It's good information on it. That's what I call it.
There also is a dog tag. I think he's talking about at some point.
I thought you referenced a dog tag.
I think it might have both. It might be a dog tag and the locket all in one. Anyway, but he's like, he's about to hand him the locket, and then I can't tell if it accidentally opens or if he is just like, okay, like he made the conscious choice of like, before I hand this thing to this guy, I'm gonna open it. But it's like, the whole thing was weird, and it's like, I don't know. That's like the only way that he finds out, and that's the only reason the whole plot of this episode goes on.
That's my son.
Why do you have this? Yeah. It's like he feels very stupid too in that moment, but it was very goofy.
You're lying.
Yeah, you're lying. I did really like you talk about where, it is quick, but at the end when he's going to go, I was like, well, a few hours won't make a difference. And they look at the crew, and the crew's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And they start walking, and he's like, oh, yeah, you're going to marry that redheaded broad? Like, she seems really good. And like, yeah, I do love her. And he's like, reminds me of your mother. And he's like, how so? He's like, best to tell you that after the wedding. So I thought that was like a fun little back and forth between them. So I like where we ended up. I did
agree.
like that in the middle after the reveal of, that's my son, that's me. They're arguing on the ship, and there's just this shot of Storm is driving, and they're like top the lungs, and Storm just like. And then she goes back. Like, she literally looks over her shoulder, like, to, like, eavesdrop on the conversation. And I was waiting for her. She's going to be like, there's enemies right here. But she didn't. She's just like, and then, like, she just, like, this father and son are just getting in this screaming match. And Storm is just like, oh, shit. Like, I got to get this all down for the crew and stuff like that. So I appreciate that. And then my last note was, that was my last note.
One moment I enjoyed was they're in the ship, Scott and his dad, and maybe someone else is there. And they're crash landing, and his dad is like, "Oh, check out your old man," as if he did something good, but like he crashed and destroyed this ship, and like, yeah, they survived, but I don't know, just the way he was like bragging about it as he's like crashing this ship, very weird moment for me. I'm like, what are you bragging about over here, man?
That's my dad that threw me out of that burning plane and crashed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like the exact same line that he drops on it. Couple notes from me. I really like the opening of I guess it's not the opening of it, but the opening at the X-Mansion where it's Cyclops and Storm. Shouts out to Storm with the ponytail for this whole episode. I really like that look of her. Different. But yeah, they're just like walking with their coffees, and they're just like talking about, it's like, oh, it's like, I don't even know what they're referencing. Like something is indicating that like someone was up, and they're like, oh, maybe Gambit's just coming back from his like wild night or something.
Yeah.
Just
He
the
loves
Cajun
those.
man. And like just that little like, it's like a morning at the office, like you're just having your coffee like with a coworker, and like those moments are pretty like few and far between in this, especially like where we are at season. Well, we're going to be entering season 4 now, but just there's a lot of stuff going on, so I understand why we don't have these little moments. But I just really appreciate any time that we have those little humanizing moments for our ex-heroes in the X-Mansion. Just I liked it. I never really thought of Scott being a coffee drinker or like Storm being a coffee drinker. Like just thinking about that, but like seeing it right there, they're just sipping on it, like good morning, and peril is going on. I really like the character. Her name was Hepzibah. She had like the interesting look. I should have got an image so you guys know who I'm talking about. But she was the one that was. Yeah, she was
The cat one, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. She was fighting Storm. Surrender now, flying one. That's the line I remember saying. But just a cool design and an even cooler name. I love that one, Hepzibah. I like want to remember that for like a D&D character or something one day. But yeah.
I think we saw her before. We saw her in the other Starjammer situation a few episodes
Right.
ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good one. Good one.
Shouts to Hepzibah.
Good memory.
That's all for me.
Yeah, that's all, folks, for me.
Taylor's looking a little frozen over there, so.
No,
maybe
yeah.
he's got nothing.
Taylor, what's your score? What's your score? He's thinking of me. I will give this just a middle. Like it's middle sounds so low. I'll go middle.
I'm going thumb down. It's not a passionate thumb down. It's just like generally. Yeah, it's not even that one. It's not even the Emma
sorry.
Frost thumb down. It's just like a. Yeah, I can't say I was even neutral on this. I kind of disliked it. I'm not watching it again.
Very, very flat. Very flat thumb.
Flat middle.
Flat middle. I guess I should have said that. Sorry, audio listeners. I know you're out there.
Yeah, thumb up.
There you go. Finally, the season finale of season 3, episode 19. Love is vain. Love in vain. Sorry.
Love in vain.
Yeah,
Love is
I
vain.
corrected it. Yeah, baby, don't get ready. We got a whole like fucking Hobbit novel here. Wolverine witnesses the crash of a spaceship carrying horrific humanoid insects, the Colony, which overwhelm him. Meanwhile, Rogue has a run-in with Cody, which that's not really true, but her first boy, like, she didn't like run into him. Her first boyfriend, who was unwillingly trained with a kiss with her developing mutant powers. He offers her the chance to be together again, but all at the cost of her humanity. Rogue brings Cody to headquarters and asks Professor X for some time off for the weekend, much to Gambon's annoyance. That was in like parentheses. The rest of the X-Men proceed to search for Wolverine and get attacked by the Colony. Wolverine, Cody, and Rogue all get infected by the Colony spores and they begin to transform into insect-like creatures. But Wolverine manages to successfully reverse the transformation due to his advanced healing abilities. Wolverine lets Rogue absorb his powers so she can heal herself. Rogue realizes that Cody deliberately brought her to the Colony so they could be together as Colony members. Eventually, Professor X helps the X-Men escape by telepathically freeing the creature hosting the Colony. Rogue tries to convince Cody to leave with her, but he is too far gone and now is part of the Colony. The Colony leaves Earth.
No. You know what he says? He just makes like some strange noise.
As the Colony leaves Earth, Rogue is confronted by Wolverine and Gambit. Or Comfort,
You pretty much
sorry,
said
not
it all there,
Comfort.
Travis. I mean, what else is there to talk about?
What's your thumb rating?
Well, I'll hate this episode. I hate everything about it. This is probably my weakest one. This is one where you talk about the space and sci-fi. This is way too far gone, way too Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Alien. Like, it's too much. I hate this storyline with Cody from all certain point of views. I don't like him as a character. I feel like every 2 minutes, Rogue's like, how could you do this to me? How could I do this to you? You brought me here deliberately because you loved me. Like, it's like all over the place. Cody's annoying as fuck. And I don't like Rogue in this episode either. Just like, hey, Wolverine's been missing for 48 hours. We're really worried. Fuck Wolverine. He's always in danger. But just like, it just felt very
You
odd.
say that now, Travis. If you're in her shoes, you've never had sex before. This is like you're getting a cabin with your first true love. You're like, oh my god, like I'm not affecting him with my powers. Like I'm just gonna jump those bones.
Yeah, but if one of
feel
you
like
guys were
I
gonna
want some
die-
time off. I'm
It doesn't
calling
matter.
it sick if I have to.
But it'd be different. I wish they paced that differently then, and Wolverine wasn't in peril, because it's like, hey, yeah, Wolverine's been gone. We can't find him. The only conversation they had with Wolverine was, I'm somewhere in a desert. Like, he's in the most pain he's ever sounded in, and they're like, Wolverine sounds off all the time, but he sounds a little more worse this time. But like, I just didn't like how it just made, Rogue, like, I get it, but it just made it look like, she just needs to bone really bad that even if her friends are missing, and even like Logan, who I think is, especially for the lady character, is always a bit more softer and is always trying to take care of them, looking out for them. It'd be different if it was somebody that she just fought with. So I didn't like it for Rogue, didn't like it for Cody, hated the Colony, was not a fan of really much of this episode. So, and definitely the worst finale we've gotten, in my opinion. So,
my most positive thing about this episode, I'm kind of aligned with Trev with this one, unfortunately. Especially, it's like unfortunate to just end the season this way. For like looking back on the season, like there's a lot of stuff in the season. So to just end it with the body snatchers was a little bit of a letdown. But my most positive thing was actually like their ship and just the idea of this like space traveling whale that they use as like a spaceship. That is so weird in all the right ways for me. I love that aspect so much. It like it made me think of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 of just like when they go to like that one just super like organic planet or like I can't even remember like with oh my god, the actor's name, the main captain guy, but just like how weird it was that they're like using the spaceship as a living creature. I loved all that aspect. I feel like I liked the insect design, but everything about this episode, it's unfortunately fallen pretty flat for me. I didn't need this. I feel like I do like that.
I didn't need this.
I feel like I do like the dilemma that Rogue has with her powers, and it has been brought up before in the show, I think better, and I'm okay if they revisit it because it is something that she's always dealing with, but it didn't really work for me at all. I think Cody, his just emergence out of nowhere was just super like I almost forgot about who he was because I'm like, no, that guy like hated her and like was totally in a coma, but maybe I'm just misremembering that, but
no, they kissed and he went in a coma. He has, though, I'm going to assume that he hasn't had sex either, probably. I don't know how long he's been out from the coma, even though he has a worse life than Rogue. He kisses this girl in high school, his high school sweetheart, goes into a coma, wakes up. These aliens come after him because they're after Rogue. And what happens now? Again, he did go with it. He could have at any point told Rogue, hey, these aliens have come to me and they're fucking around, but still. And then at this end of the episode, he turns into this creature and he's just taking off to space. What a terrible life. That is bottom of the barrel life.
Yeah.
One of the worst ever.
Worst decks. Or worst hands you could have been dealt through that.
Yeah.
Deck.
That's the setup for a supervillain style backstory right there.
Yeah.
So maybe he'll come back.
First
We'll drop that same line
villain.
too.
Super
like, remember
Cody
me?
or something.
What you explained, Charles, reminds me of that movie Miss March, where the guy is like prom. And he's about to lose his virginity, and he goes into a coma.
Forgot about that movie.
Yeah,
I've never seen this movie.
He
That's
goes
funny.
to
haven't?
find.
Nope.
It's pretty funny actually.
Horse
She
dicks
becomes
on
a
MPEG,
Playboy,
man.
a Playboy lady at the mansion, a Playboy bunny, and so he goes on this quest to like go and find her after.
This
he
sounds like
wakes up.
so many 2000, like not
It's
the
very
coma
late
part.
night comedy. Very late
Yeah.
night comedy. Hot Tub Time Machine. Craig Robinson plays a great character in it. His name's Horsedick.mpeg. I love it.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
That's like a sick name.
Not the coma part, but like how many movies in the 2000s are there? Hawk Girl that like I'm in love with is so far away. I got to get there. And you know what always happens too? There's like a girl that's a little less hot that's with him that he actually should be with the whole time, and they get together because the hot girl's the person he shouldn't be. Like Girl Next Door. There's another one with
She's Out of
Jack
Your League.
Black. She's Out of Your League. There's a bunch of those where it's just like guy has to get to Road Trip. I think is even kind of like that. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I think there's one called like Sex Trip too. It's like a sex road trip, but it's like the exact same thing.
Yeah, and you have
Yeah.
Seth Green, who's an Amish guy in that. Too.
Yeah, and he's
Yeah.
so good. He's
And the
he's
plot is just Virgin wants to bang hot chick and realizes that love.
And then
should
guess
be
what
the thing.
happens? Spoiler alert: he ends up getting with like his girlfriend that he's with, just
Always
like
that's
working
all-
with.
yeah. And she's like 5 minutes in the movie, like, "Oh, you look so good in that top." And he'd be like, "Yeah, do you think Jennifer's gonna like it? Because I'm so nervous to see her again." Like, the most obvious. Like they may as well just be on the bed, like unnaked, just being like, "I clearly like you, dude." And then the second, what happens at the end of every second act? They get in a fight. And she storms off, and he like, let's say Jennifer's the hot chick, right? And Sarah's like the friend, and he'll look at his friend and be like, Taylor, like, what's wrong with Sarah? And then Taylor will be like, he'll be like, don't you get it? She's always loved you. And then our main character's always like, he has no clue. He's been oblivious to everything our friend, the girlfriend character, has said to him, and then it always happens in the last. And American Pie too, that does that, right? Because he gets with the hot chick, it's the band chick, right? It's always that moment where he can have sex or go with the hot chick, and then they're looking over a room. He sees Sarah, and she like leaves, and then they talk. 90 song hits, and they make out, and just like
Only at the 2-hour mark did these tangents start breaking out. Taylor, what do you think of the episode?
I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was super kooky, crazy. Just this ship just crash lands and just the roaches trying to colonize. I just thought it was so random that I appreciated it. And where, for whatever reason, Wolverine's just meditating out here. The ship crashes
because he lost. He gave up. Like this, I think he officially accepted the L that Jean's not his. So
I guess so.
Out in the desert.
He's out in the desert and. The ship crashes. He's like, "Who's starting the war?" Like,
yeah,
and he's running right to it. Classic
running right to it.
He's having World War I PTSD right now.
At this point, like Madison was awake because I was watching it this morning, and she loves like those weird like line drops. She quotes one. I can't remember the one that she quotes, but she quotes it all the time just because Wolverine just says these weird one-offs. But yeah, he goes off there and. Wolverine was just a highlight for me on this episode because you mentioned earlier he's on the phone. Gambit's like, oh, he's not usually making much sense, but he's really not making much sense here. And like Wolverine could have said where he was, but he's like, oh, and the next time we see him, he's walking back to the alien ship. Like he could have said it on the phone. He wasn't being attacked or anything.
He's in pain.
There's just some weird, quirky little things, but I got a kick out of it. I like that the roaches. They fucked up so hard because they've been watching the X-Men, but clearly they did not take into account Wolverine's healing ability and what that might do. Decades of observation.
They always forget that healing ability.
Yeah, apparently.
The claws is what's top of mind.
Yeah.
They never think about the other powers.
My favorite thing was like I get that he did help at the end of the episode, but like 80% of this episode, it's Storm flying around and then just being like, "Professor Xavier, where are you? We could use your help." And like. It's like not until like the last 5 minutes where you finally get shot of him in his chair, like, "I'm trying, but I just can't get through." There's so many times where she just calls him, no answer. As a viewer, we don't even see him say anything. Just like, "Charles, we really need you right now." I was like, oh no, is he back on fucking Savage Lands? Like, where is he right now?
Sex Trip or Miss March and all those movies.
yeah. No, I like this movie. He's still trying to get back into Alondra's mind. He's like knocking, like, "Let me back in." But yeah.
He calls him, the line's busy because he's trying to call Alondra.
Yeah, but I found that funny.
For this episode is a strong start to me because Wolverine and Rogue are like my two favorite characters. So it's like, okay, we're gonna get like a little solo adventure for each of them, and then it probably entangles at some point. But I'm kind of with you, Kirkland and Travis, by the end of it, where I just feel like the quality of the writing here wasn't so great, and the villains weren't super enticing. I love that they're just like weird lizards with like Dr. Octopus arms. Like that's cool, but like there isn't really any great dialogue, or I don't know. There's not even really any fun one-liners for me. Like they end up just being kind of boring and generic, and I guarantee I'll forget about them in a month's time when we're doing our next like bout of X-Men episodes and all that. So yeah, I think it's kind of disappointing. It's just as you guys mentioned too, really really poor choice for the finale of a season. Just a really weird way to end it overall. And then I think the disappointing thing for me too with Rogue is I really love her. I love the character. I love her storyline, and I love they kind of been hinting at this too, that she's been feeling lonely. She's trying to find some love lately, and so that's kind of like that's the finale. Is we're actually going to dig into that, and then like this is what we get, and like Cody's a pretty weird character, but then it's like I don't know how much is it really him versus like the spores in his mind that are changing him to be kind of weird and stuff. Like it's always one of those things too, where it's like you can't even really pick a side in that way. So. Yeah, overall kind of a weaker episode.
And I was kind of more down if he was just bad, because like the weird split is like he's like, "You still love me, right?" And it's like, yeah, and like she still loves him, but like they don't ever like not break up, but like what I mean, like if he was that asshole, at least be like, well, I'm not in love with him anymore because of X, Y, and Z, and he proved he wasn't a good person at the end of the day. But like he did, and he just kind of got taken over. So it's like she's still in love with this guy that went into space. So like Gambit's kind of like the second fiddle of like, I guess I'll settle for you because my first love got turned into an insect and stuff like that. And even then, it's just everything from at one point I can't remember what the conversation is completely, the dramatic point of it, but he's like, well, we could just run away together, and she's like, I don't know, let's do it. Like it literally within 5 seconds just turns on a dime and goes, okay. And again, I get it, like it's tough because like that is her character, where she's she can't have these things like anybody else, and they hit that a lot in this episode. But sometimes I don't want it to be such a big turnaround that right away she'll sacrifice everything. But again, I will say that my name is Honey Tongue, because at one point she said they used to call you Honey Tongue Cody, and I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I don't know what that means.
He's
but
a sweet
that's
talker.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't really think about it.
It's
till
creepy
now, but
though.
It makes sense.
It's a creepy way to word it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want someone to call me Honey Tongued Travis. I feel like that's like the like the escaped convict in town, you know.
I guess like Rogue kind of has like her
Travis.
little southern sayings. I guess that maybe that's
Yeah.
like one of those kind of things.
I noticed too, Cody was like very similar slang as her, so it's kind of funny to just have someone from like her neck of the woods speaking the same way that she does. It's not just like, because I mean, I guess we did meet her family earlier, and they all talk similar as well.
Yeah,
Forget when that was, but yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I thought was hilarious was, so he calls her up. Cody calls up Rogue, and he's like, "Hey, let's meet up." So they meet at some like movie theater, something like that. And she's like, calls to him across the street, and he just immediately starts walking into traffic and like almost gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
And then she like, I think she like flies, grabs him, and like saves him on the side. And then like he has no reaction to that, and like neither of them really react to the fact that he almost just got hit by a car. Like this guy who's freshly out of a coma and is like probably not doing great. He like almost gets hit by this like car that's going pretty fast, but then he immediately just says like, "Oh, I remember these arms," like as she's like holding him. It's like such a weird thing to say, but just that whole sequence and how there's really no comment on the fact that he almost just walked directly into traffic. Like obviously there's something wrong with him and the way he's coming on too strong. There's a lot of red flags that she doesn't pick up on, but like immediately the fact that he does that should have been the only red flag you need.
And the fact she just kissed him too with not really asking much questions. He's like, just trust me, but it's just like, but why? Like, what has changed? Are you?
Yeah,
mutant?
you'd think like she'd want an explanation of like, okay, well, what did you do to figure out the science of this? Or,
yeah, like how traumatized would she be if she kissed him? Also, he's like, ah,
Put me back in a coma.
He's down again, right? Like, yeah,
She'd be so sad. That'd be horrifying for her. I really don't have much. Like
I got my points out.
I like the sequence when Wolverine was like going green. It looked like a very Hulk transformation type thing, and then I loved how like I know it's his regenerative powers, but in that moment I could have just been convinced by his sheer willpower is what just prevented that. He's like, "I'm gonna reverse this." Like I forget specifically what he says, but it's something along those lines, and then it happens. Like, what a fucking badass! I love Wolverine. He's amazing.
Yeah,
I always like when Wolverine lets Rogue take his powers to heal up from whatever's going on. So I like that we got that moment too. I can't. Have we had that in the animated series? We've probably had it once or twice at this point.
I think it's happened before. Yeah, I thought so.
If not in the
at
movies,
least.
it definitely happens, right?
Yeah, in the movies it happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taylor,
I don't
anything
really
else
have much
to add?
else either.
I got nothing else to add. It's just it's a good episode.
Good episode.
Good episode.
Well, what would you rate it? There,
How good?
Taylor?
Yeah.
I would probably go a thumb and a half, to be honest. Like I really enjoyed the roaches. I really had a good time with everything that was going on here, and
I enjoyed the road.
Same as Dark Phoenix Part 3. That's crazy.
yeah, I could do with if this was a two-parter, I would have enjoyed it. 'Cause I feel like
When you put in that comparison, Dylan, that just shines a light on Taylor's score right there.
Maybe the thumb system is flawed after all. I'm gonna go with the Emma Frost one thumb down. on this
Yeah.
one.
I'm gonna ride
Could
that
be
train
worse.
too. I'm gonna
Could
put
be
that
worse.
one up.
So yeah, just one thumb for me.
I got a single thumb down as well.
Oh, I'm going double thumbs for
Oh,
sure.
Earthquake in
up,
there, too.
oh down.
Yeah. I'm going double thumbs. This is easily my
Yeah.
least favorite episode.
That
This was brutal to get through, but yeah, we're on to episode 4. Or so we're on to season 4. Yeah, episode 4. We're going back. We're gonna review it all.
I definitely, took a peek at the episode titles and stuff, looking at this just to start next season. Pretty excited. Like I feel
There's
like we're
some
going to some
bangers
good
coming up,
places,
yeah.
so I'm excited for that.
And I will. It's a minor spoiler, but I think it's worth teasing that we'll get some comeuppance of what's Morph been up to. He kind of took the background because of Dark Phoenix stuff like that. Because I remember you guys we talked about the end of season 2, like, oh, I wonder what he'll be up to. And that's like, well, I think with him saying like he has to go find himself, he will be gone, but you will get to see Morph again. So you got Morph, you got some fun characters returning. So yeah, next time it'll be season 4. I can't remember what it's gonna be. I think probably the first first 6 episodes. And we will be talking about that, and it will not be boring.
See ya.
Goodbye.